you hear me? Debbie, can you hear me?
I'm going to call the meeting to order because 6:15. Is that all right? Or do you want to?
Well, I don't know if they can hear us.
Okay.
Go ahead. I mean, they'll tell us if we can.
All right. So it's 6:15. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Just so everyone knows, the meeting is being recorded. We're trying to do a sound check. Can people who are listening in remotely, can you guys hear us at all?
This is Karen, and I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. So first up, let's do the minutes. Looking for a motion to accept the public and non-public minutes of September 3rd.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to accept the public and non-public minutes of September 3rd. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, then I'm looking for a motion to accept the public and non-public minutes of September 9th.
I'll make that motion too.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to accept the public and non-public minutes of September 9th. Any discussion?
I just have one thing for the public minutes of September 9th. On the third page of the minutes at the bottom, where it says that that I shared information that I researched regarding possible COVID protocols. I just like would like that changed to it was information about regarding trigger number, because it was the trigger number, yeah, and not really the protocols for exposure. So yeah, trigger number, and that's it.
Anything else? All right, all those in favor of accepting those minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let me just quickly make a note of that here. Change to. All right, so I am going to, just so you all know, I'm going to move a couple things around a little bit here because we have our first item as the election meeting place, and then we also have number 3 is calendar updates. Since both involve calendar updates, I'd like to do those together if nobody has any objection. And then we are going to have a non-public to discuss some stuff with under negotiations to discuss with the calendar. So I want to discuss the changes, but I don't want to vote on it until after we have the non-public. Then we'll come out of non-public and we'll vote on one set of changes versus 3 sets of changes. Is everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's start. We're going to move the calendar updates and election meeting place together. Wayne, did you want to kick us off on that, or?
So the moderator who's here today, Smokey's in person, and contacted us a couple of weeks ago with concerns about trying to manage the election in the community center, given the age of some of the folks who work the election. The circumstances as he was looking at it seemed to be pretty complicated. So he asked if we could consider the high school, middle school gym. We talked to administrators, we talked to teachers. Certainly it's complicated, but we felt that there was really no way to have the election and with all the traffic and all the people in and out on the same day. So or at least I will propose that we give up, and the board makes the call, but I would propose that we give up the gym on the election day and we have a remote learning day, which means we want to get that out to parents as soon as possible because there'd be some problems. I think that would be the least obtrusive and yet manage the safety. The town, Jill will work with our director of Sean Lee and make sure that they help us do clean. Sean's already got a machine that can handle a lot of the work, but he's confident that we can make sure that's ready for the next day. So we wouldn't have staff here that day. We would have a few administrators, but we wouldn't have the majority of staff. We'd have a remote day. We kind of get that out in advance, and that way the town would have the middle high gym to manage that. That would be part of, I think, the calendar conversation. So I don't know, Smokey, if there's anything else you want to say to the issue?
I got a couple comments I'd like to add to that. We didn't do this without a lot of thought because we knew it was we had the primary in September down at the community center, and it was about all we could handle. We had about 600 voters, just a few short of 600. Last time for the presidential election in 2016, there were over 1,800 voters. Now, a lot of those voters, or many voters compared to 2016, are going to be absentee ballot voters. But even with that, it's still a large number to get through and get through comfortably. And we have all age groups. We have all types of people in different medical issues. So it's better, and we felt it would be better if it could be at the school where we can distance better, we can treat the people better. And in addition to that, it's going to be, in September, it was daylight savings time. In November 3rd, it's going to be dark. So anybody waiting in line would be out in the dark on the street, and that isn't necessarily a good situation either on Main Street. So at all points to do this, we did this with reservations because we realized that it is a disruption for the school, and we do appreciate you considering it, and hopefully we will get the opportunity to do it that way. And I'm hoping 4 years from now, this is over with, we go back to normal.
Yeah. And just so you all know, Jill would have the town crew in there the night before, set some stuff up. She has agreed, if we agree to it, obviously, she has agreed to have the town crew early to help with they're gonna do some breakdown that night too, but the next morning, to help with the cleaning. They've got like one of those foggers, to help disinfect, and they obviously work in coordination with Sean to make sure all the deep cleaning before the students got there. Does anybody have any, Kayla?
Could we make the school available for teachers if they would like to do their remote learning from their classroom? Would that be possible?
So I think that would be a board call. I wouldn't have any objection to that. I think the important thing, however, is that we wouldn't have, only the teachers that have to come, not ones that. So I think if we encourage them not to be here during the remote day, I think they probably accept that. But I mean, the elementary teachers, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, should be pretty well self-contained over there. So I don't think that would be the problem. Anyone in the middle high would have just the sanitation relative to doors and restrooms and all that.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a huge impact to us when we're over here, and we'll be creating packets for that day, basically, because we don't have laptops or anything, so we'll have to plan ahead and have things ready to be going home Monday.
Ann, did you want to chime in because it's your building?
I don't see that it would be a problem. If people would like to come in, we can close the gym off. We've had to do that a lot for like AAU basketball. It's its own area, and I think between the town support and our custodial support, that cleaning is not going to be an issue, and I think it's a nice gesture if we decide to do it.
Okay.
I have one question. If people want to come in and remote teach from their classroom, so and I'm bad with spatial relations, so I'm not sure like how many spaces we have in the parking lot. So would we want to think about keeping the parking lot for the voters, especially we're talking about older people too and whatever, and maybe ask people to maybe park like across there in the other dirt parking lot or something?
That's sort of standard procedure when we have big events like an ELO exhibition.
Oh,
so
true.
Absolutely,
Okay.
We would expect people to park away from the gym.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I have some questions. What about meals? Do we have to give the meals for the meals?
We'd have to allow pickup, but we would have to figure that out at a different place.
But that's gonna be in the same spot that people.
We would have to have a different place to do that. Whether it be at the elementary, back at the elementary, over in the other parking lot, over by the swimming pool area, somewhere else we'd have to do we'd have to
It'll be
offer that.
November, so probably be elementary.
Um,
I think carting them over in the cold might be.
okay, and clubs and sports and after school stuff, that would all be impacted, I guess, by that?
I think everything's over by,
There, I don't think we'll have any after school. I mean, the after school program now is attended by a few students. Sports should be over by then. I think we're winding things down. So I see it as if there's, the only thing that might impact might be driver education, but that's Monday and Wednesdays.
And just for Smokey, how would the town notify the residents that the place is being changed?
I don't know. That is something the selectmen would handle. And my job as moderator is finding the location. The logistics as far as that goes would be at the selectmen's office. I haven't talked to anyone about that, but I'm sure that it can be done. We've got 3 weeks to do it. And it's not something that's out of the ordinary. A lot of the other schools and a lot of the other communities have different venues for the voting in this pandemic situation. So it's not something that's going to be, Hinsdale is the only one doing it, so people aren't kind of paying attention to what's going on. I think it'll work. And I'm sure there'll have to be some kind of signage down at the community center telling people that it is here.
And we can help with that messaging too, because we're going to have to get that message out to, parents anyway. We can certainly help, get that word out.
That would be good.
If
If the kids know about it, then you're hitting a lot of the parents and a lot of the inhabitants, residents of the community. So
exactly.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the older people. who might not
Yeah, because
make it on there.
our messaging wouldn't necessarily hit, seniors. So the selectmen would have to, figure out something for the rest. But we could certainly, like I said, certainly help.
a lot of the elderly are voting with absentee ballots because of
Yep.
their age. And I'm one of those too, but I'm not going to be an absentee ballot.
All right, thank you.
So we're going to vote on it later. But does anyone else have any questions? Julie, anything? No? Right, Smokey, is there anything else you have? You're welcome, obviously, to stay as long as you like. But if you have anything else before we,
If you don't have any more questions, I don't need to stay.
Well, as long as you're welcome to stay if you want to.
I understand that and I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Smokey.
All right, bye-bye. All right, so let's dovetail the calendar updates with those PD days. Wayne, did you want to say anything about that, or?
so the COVID update,
No, the rest of the calendar updates for the PD days.
yeah, so we've already agreed that we had the 3 PD days at the beginning of the year. We are only scheduling in the calendar you'll see tonight to vote on one more PD day, and that's the very end of the year when the teachers are cleaning out their rooms. So it's not a district. So we gave up that PD so that teachers could try to get ready for the remote / in-person learning, which was extremely complicated, and they've done an amazing job. So the calendar that you see has, depending, is likely to be June 16th as the PD day, the only one we have, and the 15th is the last day for students pending snow days. So if that adjustment is going to be okay, it'll be part of that vote that we have tonight. We have one other thing to throw in the left, talk about non-public.
Does the union have that June date in there?
So I just mentioned that to the president of the union today.
Yep.
And the representative from the elementary. And so, yes, she does. She knows that we have, with the remote day, if you agree on that, we will be a PD on the 16th, and so we'll be moving that one day. I think this calendar has, but we can, speak to it when we get there, but I think this calendar had assumed that we would likely approve a day with no school on election day and no remote.
Okay.
But I think the teachers would rather do a remote day and not go into June any longer than they have to. So that's kind of the issue there.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Wayne on these PD days?
I just have an observation. August 31st needs to be colored as a PD day, that Monday. It's just was an oversight or is missing to make it the, correct days that were PD
okay.
days.
So this calendar, we would just remove that November 3rd election day from the listed days off.
Right.
Okay.
If you approve the calendar, and that was fairly recent information. But at this point, we'd like to accommodate teacher wishes.
Yeah, I think we need to do what we need to do to help support them as best we can. And then, if that was a positive vote, we would obviously need to communicate that being a remote day, so students knew to log on and stuff like that. All right.
So pending the okay of the board later on tonight, I've got a call into the chair of the Hinsdale Federation of Teachers at 2:00 tomorrow, and I can communicate whatever we end up with. And then Friday, I'm meeting with Kayla and Sean. We can come up with messaging if you'd like.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any other questions for Wayne? On this, like I said, we're going to vote on this a little bit later on tonight, but I want to make sure that everyone has all of their questions answered and all the information that they need. All right, so we'll just put that aside for now. All right, so let's move on to the COVID update. Now, I will say, oversight on my part, Holly had wanted a couple of items on the agenda, which I totally forgot about. So that is no one's fault but mine. But I did talk to her about it afterwards, and she's going to put her stuff in with the COVID update because it seemed to fit there.
After I yelled at it, no.
A little bit.
No,
But
I didn't. No, I didn't.
it was all right.
It was a text.
It was a test. Right?
No, a text.
Oh, I was going to say.
No, a text.
Oh, I was gonna
Okay.
say,
So-
Miserably.
No.
All right, so who is, so Holly, you'll speak after we do this. So who's going to speak to the COVID update?
I
Wayne?
would speak to the COVID update, and this is a very serious conversation, given that I think we have a huge decision to make as we look ahead. And as I assess the organization, I got to say I'm so impressed with the work the staff has done to pivot almost daily. Here's a remote kid that's, we've got this long list now. They're coming back on November 2nd. They're stretched trying to deal with remote and deal with in person. They've got, another issue around masks and all of the kinds of, absolute, so significant issues related to life safety. So everybody's doing that at the same time they're managing their own personal complexities. So this has been nothing like anything I've ever experienced. So we've made 27 days. And if you look at the groups around us, the districts that are doing 2 days in person a week, we're well through where they'll be at the end of the year in person. I'm looking and seeing what capacity the organization has, try to give you some good advice regards to the decisions we might be making, and I hope we can make them at our next board meeting, November 4th. As I look from the very beginning of the year to now, we've had 79 students who have been sent home because of COVID symptoms. COVID symptoms can be runny nose, can be sore throat, can be fatigue. How many kids you see, oh, I'm tired today. Or is it that, when you start looking, and those are all symptoms. And of course, some people are asymptomatic, so that even further, it makes that even greater. So we've had 43 at the elementary school, from the very beginning of the year to now. When they're sent home, they either 10 days, quarantine 10 days, or they have a negative test. 36 at the high school. We've had 5 staff members total that we've sent home. And all have come back now with negative tests. So some of that's new as of today. So, and look at capacity. Obviously, there's not a lot of substitute teachers out there. And I look ahead. And I think, okay, based on my experience and being in schools for, seems like forever, when you get towards Thanksgiving, things kind of get a little more, nurses will begin to complain frequently because the number of kids that are coming to school after Thanksgiving that have colds, coughs, all the other things, and they're trying to keep these things from being spread in their class. This is prior to the mask world that we live in. So I'm thinking about how at Thanksgiving are we going to expect that there won't be people coming from other areas, possibly out of New England, that there won't be, even within a family, opportunity to spread because, let's say a grandparent and a grandkid, you're not going to hug the grandkid. How about, you're not going to let the aunt who lives maybe upstate New York or, Western Pennsylvania? Well, that sounds fairly safe, but it's not on our. So then we've got the quarantine issue to deal with that. And then when you get towards the December holidays, then there's sometimes even greater transfer from far away. Meanwhile, the air is dry. The ability to transfer any virus seems to be enhanced by a dry air indoor environment. So I'm looking ahead at that and I'm thinking maybe we can come up with something, kind of get ahead of that in November. And if you're okay with me trying to develop something, I could meet with the administrators next Wednesday and have a chance to, make sure that teachers were okay and bring something to the board on the 4th that might look at that holiday season. I'm not saying we get to the holiday season in full capacity as we are now. We may not get there, but I think if we had that, let's say we said November 30th, the Monday after Thanksgiving. Let's say we plan to do remote then. We were able to notify people several weeks before. Our ability to have our teachers prepare, our ability to there'll be some anxious parents because some of this is financial in addition to the health side. But at least they'd have time to kind of get prepared for the obvious. And we could bring them back if we wanted to as late as the 19th of January, which is the Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day. That would mean anyone over the December holidays would have time to go. I do think there's a good chance basketball will be starting at the state level on that day as well, but that'll be a conversation that's still being, the NHIA still having, and the AD would like to come on and talk to you about that on the 4th, because by then he'll know what the options are. So that is something I think if we could consider that, if you want me to develop a plan around that, there's a lot of questions, and at least have something to start with so you're not kind of creating a change from whole cloth. Or we could just continue to do what we're doing, in hopes that the spread does not increase as people go indoors, and hope we'll continue to be lucky, which we are very lucky to be in southwestern New Hampshire right now. It seems like this side of Temple Mountain is a world very different than the other side. I'm very happy that we're here. But my guess is that when you get to the holidays, there'll be people from the other side of Temple Mountain, from the other side of New England, that there's going to be just a lot more activity, kids coming back from college. So I just think it's something that we're going to just have to understand that our original plan, which I think we've done a great job with, we may have to modify that a bit to give our kids the best education we're capable and give our staff, a situation where they're not in an environment that's not as safe as we can make it. At this point, schools are very safe. People are bringing it in to schools. They're not getting it. It not seem to be transferring it in schools. But at some point during those holidays, there's just going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of community spread, I think, that we're just going to have to deal with. So I don't think we have to solve that problem tonight, but I just wanted to get that out on the, I want you to know we've got a lot of kids going home, which that also makes it difficult for teachers because kid goes home. Okay, are they remote? Will they get a packet for this kid? 79 kids already. since the very first day, and we've only been at this 27 days. It's gonna get more complicated, and I just think the organization's done a great job to get where we are. And I think we can probably manage a while longer without big change, but I think writing on the wall in regards to the holiday season. So that's what I have in regards to COVID update, and it sounds like, Holly, you have other pieces that you want to add on to that.
Before we move on, I just want to throw in a couple of different things for you guys, because I know that some of what you talked about is mentioned in your report. And, Kayla, Wayne, and I also met with the teachers union before this meeting. And I think some of the stuff we need to talk about in regards to that kind of feeds into what Wayne is talking about. So, I don't want the whole agenda to be like, oh, we have to talk in non-public first, but there's a lot of information coming out in non-public, between the union and between other stuff. All right. So I just want you all to keep that in mind, that we're going to be getting some more information on this in a little while. Just kind of keep that in the back of your heads. I think that we need to, look, as Wayne said, look at what we're doing, and everyone's doing, just over and above, but we have to look at, is what we're doing sustainable? And I'd be hard pressed to find people to say, yeah, we could do this forever. We really need to be looking at this. We need to be looking at the well-being of, the staff, as well as the students, and, also take into consideration the needs of the community and all that. But we're going to get some more information later on that as well. So I just want you to all have that in the back of your heads. So Holly, you had a couple of things under.
Yep, thank you. So we had talked several meetings about a trigger number, and I had handed out, the state had come out with some recommendations right before our last meeting, and I had handed out those, and I have been keeping kind of, track of some stuff, tracking case numbers for Cheshire and Hillsborough, which I did Hillsborough because in my second piece that I wanted to ask to be added to the agenda, and so my other thing I want to talk about was sports, because we are going to some schools in Hillsborough County, and I had quite a number of concerns from parents about that some of the places were over an hour. I'll talk more about that in the sports part, but Hillsborough has more, and these numbers and I've been keeping track of every day on the state's school website, the one that they set up for schools, that tab. And so I'll just pass this out right now, and you'll see our numbers are pretty good. Are there new cases per 100,000 over 14 days? So that way they do it so it's equalized. So, like, of course, Hillsborough County has a lot more people than Cheshire, but this way you can really compare it because it's per 100,000 people. And the Hillsborough County numbers don't include Manchester and Nashua, because that would way skew it. So it's like the rest of Hillsborough. So anyway, so I've been tracking it, and like I said, our numbers are pretty good. Hillsborough has been spiking, and a lot of other places around the state has been spiking. I know, what's the one above us, or north of us, Sullivan, I think, County, they're pretty low too. So and so I've been keeping track of that, and I think what we talked about last time too is people want to know a trigger number, because most districts have a trigger number that will track community spread, and like the state put out community kind of a metric of community spread, how, if there are cases in the school, and also just regular absences in the school, like you're saying, all the people, 79 students, 5 teachers or whatever it was, out with COVID, not related, but COVID-like symptoms. And then plus they're probably out with other stuff too, like the overall absences. So in that metric thing that I gave out last time, the state, they say, if it's, so much community spread, it was like our 1 to 50 cases, they say in person, 50 to 100 cases, you go hybrid, and then over 100, it would be all remote, but you kind of look at it in conjunction with how many people are out. So if you have, like, I think it was 35% out, but you may have low community spreads, but 35% of your people have been out, you know what I mean? It's whether or not you can manage the school. So we have to, I think, set up You know, most people have a committee. I know I read in SAU 29, they have like a committee that looks at it like every week, well, monitor the numbers every day and track them. But then like every week or every other week, they'll look at it and make a decision. Okay, we're good. We're still good. We're still good. Oops, nope. We're going to have to go out all remote like in a week, give them some time, parents some time. So like I said, I've been tracking those numbers. I don't know the percentage of total staff and students, you know, so that's something that you guys would have to keep track and determine. My only concern, I know that will make it kind of difficult, and I think the board needs to come up with, you know, or the board and the administration together need to come up with, okay, these are the parameters, you know, if it looks like, you know, so much community spread and so much that you can't function because too many kids are out or too many teachers are out, you know, what's the kind of the parameters. But the only thing that I really see looking at this is, if say for sake of argument, we hit 51 cases and, you know, we still are continuing with decent amounts of people out sick, well, we don't have a hybrid option to go to. So that would mean we would either stay all in until we hit 100 cases or go remote earlier than if we had a hybrid option. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
51 cases in town?
In the county.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the county.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify.
Yeah, most other schools, ones I've been reading, don't differentiate for in the town. It's just county, because then that's how the state reports it in per 100,000, you know, in 14 days in the county. And they did say, you know, in the thing I handed out last time that, you know, you could follow it exactly. You can make your own, more strict, less strict, you know. So yeah, so like I said, because there's not a hybrid option to go to, you know, maybe think of like midway, come up on kind of a midway, like 75 cases and X amount of incapacity of the operating systems. I don't know how to say it, but so, and like I said, there are people concerned that, you know, our numbers are low now, but we do have people from Hillsborough County playing on our field tonight, and look at the Hillsborough County numbers, you know, actually, you know, like equalized that we can compare them. They have, you know, 7 times the number of cases as we do. And so, you know, I know there are community, like I said, I've had a lot of, you know, several quite, you know, inquiries, messages and phone calls about, you know, why are we traveling? We said it'd be under an hour. And I did go back and listen to that meeting today while I was working. And yeah, and if you know, it would be hard to only play within an hour because we're rural and there's not as many teams, but you know, the I don't want to say agreement, but whatever discussion was that if we were going to play teams more than an hour away or whatever, you know, the principal, superintendent, and the school board would all be asked, hey, what do you all think? Is anybody uncomfortable? And you know, that didn't happen. But and I don't have an opinion. I'm not going to give my opinion. I'm just saying I had to bring it up because I got so many calls about it, and it does feed into the trigger number.
Didn't we agree with Sam that he would try, but he wasn't totally positive he would be able to make that happen?
Yeah.
I knew that was the
Yeah.
goal, but I think we left it at
No, well, yeah,
try.
and that's why I listened to it today. It was that we would try, but yeah, because and if they wanted to schedule with a team further away, or you know, in this case outside of the county, that he would ask Wayne and Ann and send an email to the board to assess everyone's comfort, and if people are not comfortable with it, then we wouldn't do it. Communication is a huge part of it. I listened to it today just because I wanted to make sure, because I couldn't remember entirely. You know, that was like 2 months ago. So, so I'm just saying there are people in the community who are concerned because Hillsborough County numbers are spiking and we're going back and forth. I do have a few other sports questions after that, but that did play into trigger number.
Do we want to deal with trigger number first?
Yeah,
Then move on to your other stuff?
Well, yeah, but I just wanted to make sure that was mentioned because we can look at ours and go, look, we're doing great. Well, we're forgetting that, you know, other kids are out here running around on the field, or we're going over there. And
Right.
And then like what Wayne said too about families traveling for the holidays. So that, you know, could definitely play into it. We might hit a trigger number before we even get to Thanksgiving if people are traveling or doing whatever. So
So Wayne, has the administration come up with anything as far as a trigger number? Have you guys discussed it or come up with any kind of
So
proposals?
the Health and Human Services with the dashboard piece
Mhm.
has a very complicated matrix because it has to do with contact tracing in addition to numbers. So we have been following kind of their advice until we came up with something that was personalized at the board level. So they would call us immediately if there's someone in our area, and they would tell the community if there's somebody in our school.
Yep.
And I know of several cases where there wasn't really someone in the school and they still ended up on the dashboard because of some kind. So it's not a foolproof deal, but it's the best thing we have. So one kid who may have, let's say the kid was in a large class and had been there for several days. It's one scenario. Another scenario, a kid comes in one day, is in a small number of students that they possibly have in contact. So it isn't just a number of kids who test positive. We haven't had any of those. It's number of kids who test positive under certain circumstances. And it might be a situation where no one tests positive, but because others in other districts or in other towns are connected with kids, or they work with them, or they've been hanging with them or whatever. So it is pretty complicated, and that right now is the best metric we have, and I think that's what most districts are doing. But I think if the board wants to set here's the cutoff so the community knows, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with that. I don't think anybody would.
Hold on 1 second. So do either principal have anything to what they want to add? I mean, I don't want to put
I
you in a
can
position where
complicate
maybe.
this if you'd
Okay.
like.
Please.
All right, so my concern isn't so much how many staff I might have out sick or how many children are going to be out sick. Right now, I'm looking at the numbers that will return. And I think my staff is stressed. It is very difficult to teach simultaneously remote and present, and add to that ancillary support for those children who are in the building but not in your room. How do I staff that with quality instruction? I am concerned about the quality of learning that's happening now. So I think that's another factor. If we bring more children into the building, how do we then manage? I can't put 25 kids in a room.
Which I believe you have 18 kids
I
coming
have
back?
18 in one room. Well, today I looked at it was 17.
But you have 18 coming back in November.
Yes, and I don't know how they're going to fit.
Oh, that went up from the
I thought
report.
it said
Yeah.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it was like
18.
7 or
We-
something.
Like I said, we just had a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna
So
work,
it's
my
gonna be
goodness.
challenging.
All right.
So
Yeah.
that's another factor to think about.
Joe?
I guess my biggest thing is wondering about, like, would it be district-wide, like, if, say there's more at the elementary school, does that imply that it would also be the middle high school or vice versa? The trigger number, if it is a new number that's arrived at, what's it based on, school level or district level?
Holly, can you answer that?
I think it says level of school impact, but in this thing that I handed out last month, it just says a guide for schools. So I don't know. Now we are all on one campus. I know a lot of other districts, bigger districts, aren't all on one campus like this. So like if it's one high school, then maybe that's why it's worded as school, because you could have like a big high school and their elementary schools are, all over the city or the town. So it wouldn't, I think being all on one campus probably makes it, I would think more likely that we would all go as one, you know what I mean? One thing I just had a question about, because I think every time trigger number gets talked about, we keep talking about, well, when our kids test positive or when our teachers test positive. And I think the purpose of the whole trigger number thing that the state put out is to look at community-wide, not who tests positive. It's look at the spread, look at how you're being impacted by absences, totally separate from if anybody actually has COVID in your district as kind of a preventative measure.
It's
right?
it's an alert system. It's giving you a heads up that things are going on around you and you should look at taking some action.
Yeah, so we keep conflating people sick in our building with COVID and the purpose of this. Just to kind of, and that's at least was my understanding.
Anything from the board? Kayla?
So I know I'm probably the outlier, but I don't really agree with doing county. I think our community would be a more accurate representation. Counties around us have spiked. We went through the 4th of July. We've gone through, summer, families visiting. We've been through all of that. And Cheshire County has spiked. We did not. So my opinion is doing kind of a Hinsdale number. And I think if we get any positive in the school, because we are small, we would need to, in my opinion, go remote and kind of then do the contact tracing and figure out the impact.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, and Ann, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but if we had a positive case, DHHS would be the ones to say, to either do the contact tracing or instruct us or work with us to do the contact tracing. Depending on how that worked out, then they would give us a recommendation on shut down that building, this building, or the whole district.
But
So
we could decide.
We could be more
I think
restrictive.
We
one
yeah.
positive case, that's just my
Right,
thought, is that then we go
In
remote
the
and figure out-
district,
Yeah,
we
not the
could,
town.
Right,
we
no.
could, as long as we were following those guidelines from.
Which
Health
that
and Human
sounds like it would be
Services.
more, more whatever than what the DHHS could possibly say too.
Yeah.
It would be,
Yeah.
because their recommendation is if it's a child in one area and he's only had contact with those same
Mhm.
children, I hope I can explain this. right.
Cohorts, right?
Cohort,
But we
yes.
don't
Right.
cohort, so.
Well,
The elementary
The
school.
elementary
Oh,
school does.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
elementary
Yeah,
school does.
yeah. But I
So
mean,
if they
yeah.
had someone in their cohort get sick with COVID, they would do the testing all the way around. And what they usually do though is only test like the 6 people that are around him, not the whole classroom. And then they would tell you what, if they found out that it spread more through the classroom, then they might tell you to close that classroom down. They wouldn't, and this has happened, they wouldn't necessarily say you have to close the school down. But that's up to the board also.
Kayla?
So I also have questions about testing, because testing is very costly. If you have family who doesn't have insurance, we can't require testing, but maybe
Maybe
I
they just
did see
quarantine
in
them,
this
maybe.
packet though, you can work with state departments to make tests available. So I wanted to know if we were doing that. But I personally feel that it shouldn't be like a wait and see when you're dealing with people's children. If there's one positive, my opinion is we go remote until we see if it did spread, and if it's contained, then we can come back. But I think one positive case in the district and we should go remote.
Do you want to see if you can get an answer to your testing question before we get more input from the board, or do you want
No,
to
I think get input about this because testing is kind of,
separate?
yeah.
All right. Julia, Jim?
I agree with Kayla that I think it needs to be more Hinsdale focused rather than Chester County for the trigger number. I do think that it's more logical to me. I also think that we could set a policy that indicates if there was a positive test, there would be a mandatory 14-day remote. I know there are schools that do that outside of our state. Connecticut does that. They get a remote, it's automatic. 2-week remote. They get a positive case, it's automatically 2 weeks remote, and that gives the administration and the board and the contract testing time to kind of work itself out. I think that is a very practical, sort of a proactive thing that we should discuss and have a plan, a definitive plan. What happens if we get a positive student or staff testing? That was going to be one of the things that I would recommend. Mandatory 2 weeks gives everybody time to figure out what's happened, has there been a spread, and to do a lot of deep cleaning and that kind of thing. So I would agree that Hinsdale numbers are the ones that we should focus on and not countywide. And I do think we need to have a definitive plan for a positive test, and I think a 2-week automatic remote upon finding out that positive result is perhaps one we should consider.
Jim, anything?
I guess my perspective is a little broader. It's very similar to the election um, day change, but it's like the remote learning model. How does it affect the school situation, clubs, meals during bad weather? I mean, if we're going to be doing this during potential snowstorms, so how do meals get done during that type of, that
Oh, you're
scenario?
back to talking about the November to
Yeah,
January?
yeah, I'm kind of,
Yeah,
I'm
something
kind
back
of
to
like
that.
going back to that.
Yeah, I had some
And
questions on
then
that as
if
well.
there was bad weather, would there still be a potential snow day so people would have to travel, to get the meal, stuff like that? It's that broader perspective.
But how is that relating to the trigger number per se? Like, I mean.
Well, it's not, it's just more of a related to the broader, like, discussion regarding COVID.
Yeah, we didn't, because I had some comments on Wayne's proposal too, but I
Not
thought we
so
were gonna
much
talk about that
trigger.
later, more in depth.
Yeah, we
Later.
are gonna talk about that more in depth.
Yeah, so, I mean, nothing related to specifically the trigger number.
Okay. I obviously see the value in the Hinsdale number. That's the one that's most, right immediately in our face. But if we are looking at everyone in Hinsdale is not staying in Hinsdale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going elsewhere. So I would hate to lose focus in the fact that things can be imported and exported, so I think the county number is valid, and I think that we need to be looking at the county number. Whether we temper that with an in-town number, that might make sense, but I think that it is, how do I want to say this? I don't think we should ignore what's going on around us just because we've been fortunate, and hopefully we'll continue to be fortunate. I mean, we're sending people in, people coming in, we're sending people out. We need to keep that in mind. Julia?
I would say, speaking to that, be cognizant of our surroundings. I think that you would probably find that an equal, if not more, percentage of people that travel out of Hinsdale head into southern Vermont than they do into Keene. I think a lot of people in town work in Brattleboro and the surrounding areas. I know I shop in Brattleboro. So that's why the Chester County, we kind of pigeonhole. I think our exposure comes a little bit more from the west than it does necessarily from the east.
I think one challenge that Hinsdale has versus a lot of other towns, even in our county, is where we are. So you do have to look at Massachusetts. You do have to look at Vermont. So it's not, everyone keeps saying we're in this little bubble, but the bubble that surrounds that bubble is bigger.
Right.
You know what I mean? Than I think some other communities face. Holly?
And Sean and I had talked about Brattleboro, because I know, and I just didn't put it on, I don't have the information here. I mean, it's been zero. Brattleboro has been zero. Like Vermont, I work in Vermont. Brattleboro is super careful about masks, distancing. I mean, everything. I mean, Vermont's really got it under control. But we have teachers who live in Brattleboro, Putney, whatever. We have parents who work there. So yeah, definitely. And, and then I tried to look at is it Franklin County in Mass? Whatever the county is in Mass. Franklin. And Massachusetts website for COVID, it's not user friendly. So I was not able to really keep good track of their numbers. But I do know, I don't know if we do anymore. We did have some teachers who lived in Northfield. I don't know if we still do, but oh yeah, we do actually, one I can think of. So that's another thing, is we have teachers coming up, and I assume some parents might work down that way too. So yeah, I mean, exactly. So even if we did do a Hinsdale focused, it should be Hinsdale, Brattleboro, Northfield and area, and with an eye on the state number 2.
And you had something?
I listen to WTSA on my way in every morning. They announce every morning the numbers for Franklin County, Chester County, and
Wyndham.
County. So,
Okay, cool.
and like this morning, I think there was maybe 2 new cases yesterday in Chester County, none in Franklin and none in Wyndham. So, I mean, And it's probably right on their website also for those.
Mhm.
So it
Yeah,
might be easier just to go to that website than to try to figure out the math one.
yeah. And thank you, and I'll do that. Those are like active numbers, because right now in Cheshire, we have 10 active, 0 in Hinsdale and 0 in Chesterfield. And I know that because I report that to my minister weekly. So we're deciding on whether or not to go back to the sanctuary. So I keep an eye on Wyndham and Cheshire and whatever piece, the parts that affect our church. But so I do keep that, and that's active numbers. The information from the state that I put on this spreadsheet was it's a little different than active because it's the 14-day per 100,000 cases. Do you know what I mean? So right now Cheshire has 10 active cases, but if you look for the same day on 10/13, so yesterday was the same thing, 10 cases. It has 13.1. Well, that's because that's over 14 days per 100. So it's probably equals out to the same sort of thing. It's just a different way of looking at it. So we just have to make sure whatever we look at, like if we look at the state school tab that gives you this 14-day thing, and then we're also looking at Wyndham and Franklin, they might be calculating different. You know what I mean? We should make sure we are all calculated the same way. Yeah.
Kayla, you had something?
I think we should go by active cases, like real, actual numbers. That's just my
Well,
opinion.
these are real, like I guess, but 13 of these are probably past the whatever deadline because it's, you know what I mean, 14
Well, and
days.
doing it
Yeah.
per 100,000, I think that does change. I just think we should use active cases.
That's okay. That is what this is. It's just looking at it in a different way.
Like a
But
daily active
yeah,
case.
but yeah, whatever we decide. But then I know then we should. I don't know how you would have to then, because I believe the state's recommendations here is based on that state tab. So that state's recommendation, this piece is based on the 14-day that the state puts out. You know what I mean? So if we want to pull this in at all, this metric, we should probably figure out, okay, now it isn't really 50. What is it if it's active? Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm assuming though, this will be monitored like daily, and
Daily.
WMUR reports
Yeah.
active cases.
Cases
So we
daily,
have
yeah.
means to track.
No, but what I'm
active
saying, not the
cases.
tracking, but the deciding. So if we decide to go with the state metric here and scale it
Oh,
down
I
to
wouldn't
Hinsdale,
want- Yeah.
you know what I mean? Well, we still need to use a metric because if we hardly have any cases in Hinsdale, but the school has 45% of the teachers out, or this, you know what I mean? We
See, and I
can't.
think those are separate though. I think a trigger COVID number is separate from our administrators deciding our staff that is out is too much and we can't function. I think that's kind of I think that's up
Well,
to
yeah.
administration to decide.
Well, yeah, but they need to decide that. We need to communicate it all as a piece, like, you know what I mean? So parents know, so it's not, so they know what's, you know what I mean, what we're looking at. So it isn't just one day, oh my gosh, no, you know,
Well, I
remote
mean,
day. or-
every day it could be an, oh my gosh, we don't have.
No,
school."
exactly, but absolutely.
So I
But,
think that
but,
needs
and,
to be. front
and,
center.
but they need to know, what I'm saying is we still need to use that piece of how the impact is on the school. We need to come up with a decision on, somebody does, whether it's the board or the administration, and communicate it to parents so that we can say, all right, when we hit 35% of,
That'd be 213 people.
Well, and I
no,
think-
but if you look at this, it's 35% of, but of each bill,
Well,
anyway.
That's as a whole school
Anyway.
district with employees and students.
Well, yeah, but,
It'd be 213.
no, but it is,
Well, actually, that's 30%, would be 213.
did you look at this? Because it's student absenteeism is different than staff absenteeism. So I'm just saying, if we want to go by this, we can come up with our own metric, but we need to have something
You need to have,
set.
you need to
It can't
have,
be changing.
right, you need to have something
Yeah.
that's set that you measure by.
Mhm, yep.
Kayla, go ahead.
So I guess I feel like for the absenteeism part, that it's probably not every person being out affects the school in the same way. So I don't know, I don't feel like we should put a number, because if you have every administrator out and the nurse is out, and
No,
like that's
that's
gonna
why-
be much different, then you don't need to have any kind of number. 5 will do it, and the school can't function. So I feel like with students too, if it's all younger grades and older grades, I just think there's too much there's too many factors to say this number means remote. Because I think that you could have a very minimal number of staff out and have it mean the school can't function. Or you could have a large number and now the school can't function.
But there is a legally, like, right, Wayne, like there was last year before, one day when it was like, so many kids are out at the elementary school
Right,
that
and
we
that's
might not
every
be
year.
able to, yeah, I know,
Right,
but I'm
every
just
year for
saying.
Every school, the
And,
flu hits
yeah,
and some
And
schools
now
have to
because
shut
kids need to be sent home, for reasons where they might not have been other years, So, yeah, so that's why this whole thing, it's like, it cross-references the different pieces. So that's all. I'm not married to this at all. I'm just, we talked about tracking it and coming up with, but we just need to communicate something because let's close school for 6 weeks and go remote. Let's this, that's that. Well, and the parents, we need to keep lots of notice what's going on.
Julia?
I would agree that they're separate issues and that the COVID is a very black and white one that we have easily addressed, 2-week shutdown if there's a pocket. There's some gray area about the community involvement. But when it comes to the school functionality, I personally anyway feel like that is a decision that needs to be driven by the administration and how their school runs and who is absent. I don't think you can set a number to it. I'm not sure that it's the board's place to make a decision on that's kind of the 3,000 foot view. COVID changes that very much, but on a day-to-day basis, they're the ones that know what they need to make these buildings run. And then if there's a concern or a requirement for board involvement, I just don't think, I guess I'm agreeing with Kayla that you can't really set a number because it's all dependent on the function of those people and on, so many variables that it really is an analysis that needs to be made based on the current circumstances by the administration.
Yeah, which is basically what this says. I mean, if it's strained or normal or critical, based on, and they just threw percentages in there, I think, to be, yeah.
Right. I'm just saying it's very fluid and it's based on percentages and critical, requirements and that kind of thing. But I'm just saying, I don't think we can set a percentage or a number to that. I feel like the administration is certainly much more qualified than I am to make those kind of determinations.
Jim, anything?
No, I think everybody's making valid points.
I'm sitting here saying the same thing.
I tend to agree with Kayla though, that, 5 in one circumstance might really present a danger to trying to keep school open, and another situation, 25 might be that. It varies.
And I'm not saying I say we need to black and white this and that, other than like a broad idea, we at least need to, and it's not Kayla versus Holly, which is what everyone's going, I agree with Kayla, but I agree with Kayla too. But it's, it's just when we're looking at this, are we going to incorporate it? How are we going to message it? How are we going to decide on it type thing?
And I don't think anyone's this person against that.
No, but the way they keep going, I'm like, I'm not married to this. I'm just, presenting it. Yeah, I was asked to look into it.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, this is part of the conversation as well.
Yeah.
Giving the input back and forth, and everyone's making really good points. Personally, I mean, it's just the way that I am. I would like to have some type of benchmark. I would like to have something to say that, hey, we're getting close to this number or that number or this level or that level. I mean, it's just to, at the very least, to be aware, but I mean, all the points being brought up are correct.
And they lead to other points.
I'm listening to everything everyone's saying. Well, no one's wrong, really.
Yeah.
So I guess it comes down to what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to set some benchmark yourself? Do you want to either leave it to the administration or have the administration bring us something? I mean, I'm looking for feedback as far as what you guys want to do, I guess. Kayla?
So I think when we put out whatever communication we are putting out there, I would feel comfortable saying if there are enough staff members or students absent, the school may need to switch to remote. Please be prepared. So then we're not saying this number, and then we have every custodian call out, and now we have to, go remote, and that's not the number we said. I just feel like if we put out that if the school cannot function, we will have to go remote. So then parents are reminded and aware that it is a very real possibility that if we don't have enough staff or students, that we will need to switch. Not necessarily a positive case, just not enough bodies. So it's a good reminder, but it's not marrying us to a number.
Which would basically put that in the hands of the superintendent.
Yes.
Because, Ann or Joe can make recommendations for their building.
Right.
It would then come down to Wayne. Holly, you had
My
something?
question was, so you're saying, and I think you're saying, and I agree with you if you are, it's a school by school, in that case, if it's, not a COVID case, but in the case of, there's not enough people, that's a school thing, because it could be fine in one building
Right.
and too many
Yeah,
people are
and-
out in another, or too many kids, or So in that respect, not only, in the respect of, because you don't know that till like the day of, where too many people call in or whatever. It's kind of like a snow day,
Right.
like although you don't know, you kind of
It's a
know
COVID day.
you kind of know a snow day's coming because of the weather forecast, but it's kind of one of those, or like the boiler stopped working,
Right.
school has to, because that happens,
Pipes
It's like,
burst,
yeah,
no
exactly.
heat.
So it's kind of like that, but just have it in the back of your mind that it could happen at any time
Right, be
because
prepared.
of this. Yeah.
So are we landing on that it's really going to be up to Wayne?
For the staffing, I don't think the COVID
I'm
number.
saying put that out with whatever we decide. I still think if we have one positive, we go remote. I like the 14-day remote, like Julia said. I think.
I saw some places are doing 7. I saw in the news yesterday.
10 school
Yeah.
days. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
like
10
2
school
weeks.
days would be
Yeah.
good, because then you have weekends, so.
So
Yeah,
how-
say 10 school
So
day, make
how
it
do you
clear.
guys want that to be? You want that to be using Hinsdale numbers, one active case.
No, I meant
No.
school,
In the school.
in the school.
We haven't decided community yet. I don't think.
Yeah, for me, it's,
You guys are making this very difficult for me to moderate this discussion. You realize that.
we're
So,
doing it
so,
in
so let's,
sections.
so we need to,
District.
so we need to, what I'm gonna say right now is that we need to pick a section, come to a decision, go to the next section. Can we do that? That would be much easier for me.
That's what I was doing.
I thought so
Okay,
too.
all
I
right.
thought so too.
So for staff, Wayne's taking care of it.
Correct.
Which one do you want to do next? Wayne?
I just want the board, I would appreciate that. I think it's more functional in regards to just the practical way in which this sort of thing would happen. But if let's say it was a Tuesday, I'd probably close it for the rest of the week. I mean, I wouldn't say just today.
Right.
Oh,
That would be okay.
Right. Yeah, unless someone's out because their car broke down, I'm assuming it would be for a decent amount of time that we would not have the staff.
That would just be my inclination if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And do we want some sort of communication to go out into that effect? Or we can leave that communication.
We would want to work with the administration and do some form of communication with that, yes. There needs to be something, I mean, here's the thing, with all these different things that we're talking about, whatever we land on, the community needs to know. The
Right.
staff
Mhm.
And
needs
that
to
was
know.
why I brought that up, because with whatever we decide COVID wise, I think that needs to be a piece of it. So it's being communicated. I know we have said, be prepared to go remote, but I think people
Better.
need to understand it might not
Understand
be
why.
COVID cases.
Right, and
Mm.
and honestly, and this isn't saying anything negative against anybody, I don't think they are prepared.
Well, it's easy
Oh,
to
I'm
just
sure.
you
I
go
don't-
day to day. and-
Right,
Right.
but I don't think anybody
I
is.
guess what I'm asking is, should, like, I just start taking like notes to
Yes.
include, like, if at any time absenteeism
I'm
and
taking
with
notes.
administration, staff, or students affects our ability to ensure the safety of all involved and provide quality education, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do something like that? So I
You should, yes.
Yes.
that was my question.
Then the short answer is yes.
Okay.
So the next, we could do district cases.
Okay, district cases.
One. then we go remote for 10 school days. Is that what we said?
I feel like that's reasonable.
I'm fine with that if you guys are fine with that.
So we just are, and I'm fine with it too, but just make it clear, so we are not following DHHS guidance there. We're just going remote. They're gonna still do the contact tracing
Oh,
and
they're
all
still,
that.
they're still
They're
going
doing
through
their
all of
part,
stuff.
but we aren't following their, okay, only this classroom.
Yeah, they
and
may
whatever,
say
it's like, yeah.
just close down, this
Well,
classroom, whatever.
but we're like,
we're
everybody.
saying this to be safe. And,
Go-
And
go
we're a
remote.
small district.
Yeah.
I think that just because you might not see them in school doesn't mean you haven't wherever. I just think.
Oh, yeah. So it's remote for 10 school days.
Yeah.
Just throwing this out there, do we think that some of the community might think that's too extreme?
I'm sure
Oh,
some people
oh,
would.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think there will
So,
be that reaction literally no matter
in
what.
that case, are we prepared to face any repercussions based on that?
I am.
Well, we would have to be.
I'm saying.
I think that we could easily defend that. We are a very small community and we are trying to protect students and staff.
I have a very close friend in New Jersey. There was one positive in her son's. There's like 600 in his grade level, and they shut the school down for 2 weeks.
Yep, and I have to say that in my area in southeastern Pennsylvania where I grew up, I was just telling Sean about it. I sent him the article, I think 2 days ago, 650 kids in the middle school, one positive case, and then they shut it down. It was for a week, I think, but still, same thing, 600 middle school kids. Probably that one kid came in contact with a tiny, tiny amount of those kids, but yeah, exactly.
I think it would be harder to defend it the other way.
I think so too.
So.
It's harder to explain it too. Well,
Yeah, like, why
DHHS
aren't you
says this and
protecting the
says that,
children?
or just the process of DHHS. It gets really kind of,
Right. All right, so and we're remote for 10 days. District.
10
Everybody
school.
good with that?
And then I think it's kind of a reevaluate too. Obviously, if now half the school has it because of that one kid, then. maybe
Oh, well,
we
yeah,
should-
yeah.
and that's going to bump up the community number too.
So, and then it's a reevaluate situation.
I had just a quick question back on the administration thing. Wayne, think if that's absenteeism, but that's going to be by building and not district? Did we decide on that?
So
So
we
By
didn't-
building, right?
we didn't decide on that. Are you okay by building?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
How do the principals feel about that? Absenteeism wise, would you prefer by building?
I think it makes sense.
It does make
This
sense.
makes sense because there's not a lot of.
I'm just waiting for the straw to break the camel's back here
Mhm.
because people there's fatigue, there's a high level of
Oh.
fatigue.
Oh, that's, you're,
Across the board.
that's
When I
absolutely where we're at, yeah.
What I could see happening though is if it's like the elementary closes, then my older son is gonna take care of my younger kid, and that's gonna
Uh-huh.
impact attendance
Yeah, it may.
at the
And-
middle high school.
Yeah,
true.
I have a feeling. And it could with, teachers if their children are in the elementary school and vice versa. So I think it has the potential to go awry, but I think we should try by building.
I have a question.
Hold on one second, because
No.
I'm looking at Jim.
No, I appreciate what you were saying.
Okay, good.
Yeah, like what Joe said. So if like that happens, so it would be like if the elementary, they would go remote for the day, right? Whereas in previous years, they would close, right?
Right.
Yeah, they just straight out close because we didn't have this remote. So they'd go remote, and then theoretically, the sibling who was in the middle high school could log in and do remote. Then nobody misses a day, kind of thing. I mean, if it worked, I mean, it might not work for the family at all, but that would be the option, I guess,
And
right?
we're trying to do that now. So
Yeah.
say I didn't feel well today and I went home, but I felt good enough to get on my computer, I could still keep up with my coursework so I don't get days and days behind. So we're trying to keep as flexible as we can.
Yeah, flexible is important.
Yeah.
And grace and flexibility with staff and students is incredibly important.
Okay, are you ready for the next part? Are we gonna do anything with county?
Or community, maybe. call
Okay, are we
it.
gonna do anything with community?
I
Yeah,
think-
But then you need to define community. Is it just Hinsdale?
Well, and like Wyndham and like
Yeah, I think it, I don't know.
Wyndham and Franklin.
I personally don't feel like we need a community trigger number. I think we need a community I mean, a county, community-wide, I think we need a Hinsdale trigger number. That's my personal.
That includes Brattleboro and some, like, or do we just kind of take that into consideration?
I think that's on the outskirts. I don't know that we need to set a definitive number for that.
I think if you do, excuse me, but I think if you're going to the granular level of building by building counts, you don't need to have it.
Right, I would agree.
Because it's the local number that's gonna drag you out.
Wait, I'm sorry, say that, so Hinsdale town number, okay,
Yes.
okay.
Kayla?
So I think we could do a Hinsdale town number and then obviously always taking into consideration what's going on around us, but not necessarily say
Set a thing,
at
yeah.
this number, if Cheshire County hits this number and Hinsdale still has 0 cases, it would just be really unfortunate to set that, and then Hinsdale has 0 cases, and now we have to go remote though because we set that number. So I think we could set a Hinsdale number, but then, and just using.
Or do we need to? Can we just know we're keeping an eye on it and just set it at school? 1 positive case at school.
I don't think you need to set a count. Yeah,
I don't either.
a local one.
How do you two feel?
Well, Pinkerton, I think it was Academy just today, was going remote through the end of October. It was this afternoon on WMUR, and they closed down, they ended sports for the fall, and they suspended other activities like band and some other things, and they went fully remote until the end of October because of significant community spread. I think it was nobody tested positive in the school, but because of they looked at it and said so many people in the school, whatever, they feel are connected to people in the community, and that they did that. So I see the value in a community number. And that just happened this afternoon, and I don't know the whole story. I just read it very quickly, actually, on my phone before I left work. So I don't know. I see. So that's something that they did. Do you know what I mean? Because they're saying, okay, it's going to happen.
Right.
Rather than wait until we get a positive in the school.
Well, we should be cognizant
thing,
of,
yeah.
I think we should be very cognizant of what's going on around us. I just don't know if we need to set a number
No,
to it.
because it's hard to be cognizant and not, how do you? Yeah.
I think we can trust our administration to know that if contact tracing wise, we have multiple people in the building who have potentially been exposed, then I am assuming Wayne would say, okay, we now have potential exposure. I think the school needs to go remote. So I don't think we necessarily need to set a number. I think that's our administration doing what they do.
I have a point about that. And I agree, but a couple of meetings ago, if you remember, I asked the question that a school in Brattleboro at the end of the summer, before kids even came back, teachers were back, a teacher had to quarantine because they were exposed to somebody who had tested positive, and they sent out a notice to all the families, even though it was the end of the summer and school hadn't started. And I asked what would happen here, and no, we wouldn't do that. So that's sort of the same thing. Like if we have staff or kids who we know for certain have come into contact with positive cases, which it sounds like what happened at Pinkerton, and definitely happened at the school in Brattleboro, we've already kind of said, well, no, we're not going to do anything about that. Whereas they notified everybody. No, they notified everybody. Yeah.
Anyone saying we wouldn't?
No, we wouldn't notify people. And this is what happened in Brattleboro is they notified all the parents, everybody that, hey, there's a teacher, didn't say who obviously, but who is getting tested because they were exposed. You know what I mean? So
Well, I don't think it would necessarily be we're going to notify everyone. It would be we're going remote because
no, that's what they did.
All right,
I know, but I think that
that's-
causes unnecessary panic.
It did.
yeah.
It did.
I don't
And
think
that's
a good
what
idea
I
at all.
It
think.
did.
So we wouldn't go about it that way. We
Yeah.
would say we're going remote due to potential exposure.
But that's what I'm saying. So
it
but it's
wouldn't
the
cause
same sort of
panic.
thing though. So if 2 months ago we said we would not the same sort of thing, like notify everyone, we're going remote due to potential exposure, is the same thing as saying, are you going to notify people because someone has been exposed? It's the same thing. And I'm just asking because 2 months ago it was no, we won't. And now we're saying we should go remote due to potential exposure. which I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But I'm just clarifying because it's a different answer than I got when I asked that earlier.
Well, then I guess we can ask the,
Yeah.
I don't think we go remote with potential
Administrators
exposure.
here.
I think we quarantine whoever. was
I mean, that's what
potentially
she just said. I was
well,
only
if you
repeating
have
what she said.
multiple people who have potentially been exposed now,
Like Pinkerton happened.
contact tracing is a mess and you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
So in order to figure that out, it's gonna take
2
time.
weeks.
You're
Yeah.
gonna need time. So at least for, again, administration would decide, does it need to be just today? Let's figure out who was exposed. Does it need to be the rest of the week, 10 days? I think it would depend.
Yeah. No, and I'm just asking because, like I said, it's a similar situation to that what I asked about before, and it sounds like we're recommending approaching it differently, which is fine. We just need to be really clear in what we decide so that when it happens, there's not all this ambiguity. That's all.
So I don't recall the exact conversation, but I think we talked about being aware of confidentiality, just as the state does in Health and Human Services. So I think these areas just need to be thoughtful relative to how we alert the community. We're obviously not trying to we're trying to be as transparent as possible. We want everyone to know everything that would be of value. But we at the same time need to, we can't say, oh, Sally Jones,
Oh, no, of course not.
came down last week.
Yeah.
And so just so you know it, everybody around Sally Jones. We would get a big exposure on that.
So far, I think what I've heard is that we don't want to do a community number.
I'm happy with that. I was trying to compromise, but
No, I think it causes undue anxiety.
That would be my position.
Okay.
so are you two comfortable with that? Because you wanted county.
I'm not completely
No,
comfortable
me
with
neither,
it,
but I'll go with the will of the board.
But if 3 of you are, then
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'll go with the will of the board.
And we just need to be, we just need the administration to be vigilant and, we'll play it by ear. I guess if the town starts heating up with something, then we can always reconvene and rediscuss. There's always the opportunity to rediscuss. All right, so we got that, right?
Yeah,
Do we
that.
need a motion?
Do we want that in the form of a formal motion, or can we just do it as this is kind of what we want?
It'd be nice to have it just as
Because
the record.
A motion-
Because then there's 3 motions.
It's still, I think a motion would be good because there's stuff that, other stuff that happened at meetings when we approved the plan that was in the motion that, we're probably going to discuss
All
at
right,
some point. So yeah.
So then we're looking for 3 different motions, and that first one was the first one the in-school number?
Can we do it in
Well,
one
I
motion?
think we
Why can't
could
we do it
start
in one
off with the in-school number that.
Because the whole conversation was so convoluted.
I've got it written
But I
down.
can imagine, I can't even imagine what the motion would be. If you guys want to do it all in one motion, that is totally fine. Someone make it and someone be extremely clear with each part on what the motion is.
Well, I think we could just do a motion that if there is one positive COVID case within our district, we will go remote for 10 school days. End of motion.
And you don't want to include any of that other stuff.
And then Julia, you have the absenteeism thing written down, right?
Kinda.
If that's
Right, so you want to do it in different motions, that's what Sean
Yeah,
was
I
saying.
think if we do the one
if
case,
the absenteeism, Wayne, is that already a policy? Do you guys already
So
know what you're doing with that?
There is a policy on a high number that the nurses bring out when there's a large number of kids who are sick because of the potential exposure. I don't think we want to get that high with anything like this. So I think we would likely have a much lower threshold. Currently, we've had about 15% of our students over the 27 days that we've been in session out for either 10 days or tested negative. So we're about 15%. That's probably not going to go, we're not probably going to go double that. I just don't see us moving up without, our threshold of pain is just about there. We just don't have the capacity to get much higher.
So that's mostly staff you're speaking of absence.
Well, the
No, I think
staff
he
has
said
only been,
students,
we've
I
had
think.
6 staff out, 5 of them were situations that could be symptomatic of COVID. They all tested negative.
All right, let me, hold on one second. Can you work within the policy that already exists to accomplish what we discussed as far as if we have X amount of students, X amount of staff
Yep.
out?
Again,
All right, so then we don't need a
Yeah,
motion on that at all. You can work
yeah.
within the policy.
I can do that.
So then
That's just community.
then you can go with that motion.
Okay, so I made that motion.
Second.
Motion in a second, that one, the one case in the
Yeah.
school,
Or
Correct.
in the district.
in the,
In the
in
district,
the
yeah.
district, sorry.
I don't want to complicate this, but.
Too late.
The child is already remote.
Oh, yeah, so
Do
an
you understand what I'm
in-person,
saying?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think remote counts, you're not.
I mean, I'm just saying,
So I can tell you what most superintendents are doing, at least ones that I've heard from. They are not alerting their community for remote students. That's up to the Health and Human Services. They get that posted on the dashboard.
And
That
the student.
becomes very
Yeah, I
public very fast. And rather than risk any confidentiality issue, given the student is not ever in school, then
That's
I
the
don't-
difference, though. If it is a remote
That's what I was gonna
learner
ask.
who is participating in sports
Or
or
something,
is
yeah.
coming in for tutoring,
Or has a parent who's a teacher,
right,
because we have some of those.
then I think if they have access to the school and have been in person in some capacity, then I think that counts. If they are fully remote, then that's like a community.
Exactly.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a motion on the floor and I have a second on the floor that I need to act on. So do you want to modify your motion?
Do we need to amend that to say in person?
Students with school-related access, with school access or school-related.
Yeah, in person or
If
or
it's
access or something like that.
in-person district member.
Well, but not necessarily, because like you said, if they do sports, they're not in person, but they
But
have
you are,
access.
then you're in person in that capacity.
if you have access to the school.
It was
There you
say
go.
in person or access, yeah, the access needs to be in there, yeah,
Okay, that works.
yeah. Does that count if your parent's a teacher or no? Because then the
We're
parent would,
saying it-
we're saying it counts, okay.
Have you modified the motion?
Yes.
You seconded it, so did you hear what you modified?
I have no idea.
Please, since Julia needs to modify her second, please tell her again
Do
what
you
it
want to
was.
read? Can
I
Ann
can't
read it?
I can't read it all. Motion. A motion that if there is one positive case of COVID who has access to the school building, then we are closed for 10 days.
To school buildings, did you say buildings?
Buildings.
Okay, yeah.
Is that,
That is the motion.
do you still want a second?
Sure.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay.
And we don't need to do anything with not picking the community now because we're not doing anything. So there's no action, nothing to vote on.
Correct.
All right,
Look at that, one motion.
fantastic.
You did do it
That's
in
the
one
best.
motion.
All right, Holly, you had other stuff.
Yeah, just the other piece which we alluded to was the sports, and like I said, I
And I think Sam is online if you have questions, if he wants to answer.
okay, yeah, and I, like Sean said, through miscommunication, whatever, where I did, I'm not trying to blindside anybody because I did want it on the agenda, so I'm not trying to be
No,
sneaky.
I've already said
Yeah,
that the agenda
no.
mishap is my fault.
Absolutely, no, but I just don't
to.
want to be, oh, Holly, sneaky. I'm
Nope,
not
that's
sneaky.
why I said that.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate. So yeah, so I only bring it up, like I say, I'm not going to give my opinion or anything, because we know and Sam had convinced me. I went back and listened to the entire meeting from 8:10 this afternoon, and I came into it thinking I'm going to vote no for sports because it's just too risky and other things. And Sam had convinced me. I remember I even thanked him and said, "You convinced me. You changed my mind." So I'm just presenting this because I received messages and phone calls from parents, community members, people in the community who are concerned. Like I said, because of the fact that we have a game we went to Concord, which is an hour and a half away. A couple of weeks ago, we are Concord Christian. We have, a team from Hillsborough County came here today. We're going there Friday, I think. Girls are going there, I think, on Saturday, maybe, or they're coming here. So people are just concerned because of these places that have 8 times, 7 times, 8 times the cases we do, and coming here. And I know Concord has cases. I looked up, Wilton has 1 to 4 cases. So that the actual towns that these schools are in also have their own cases, not just county-wise. So I just wanted to bring that up, that, people are concerned. We were, I listened to it, and the meeting, and the hour away piece. And I understand one of them's hour and 15, another's hour and 20. Concord was an hour and 30. But it's the fact that Hillsborough has those numbers, I think, is what people are upset about. There was other things that I'm not even going to bring up, because the main thing is I think the other county coming in. But there are some pieces of here and there where, like Sean had said, we don't want to see pictures on social media. And there have been some pictures here and there of no masks, people hugging, coaches shaking hands with their masks pulled down, things like that. But, a picture could be a snapshot in time. So, you caught it in several different instances, but you caught that one instance in the game where the kids weren't, whatever. But know that was also been a complaint in the community. So it tied into the trigger number with other communities sending their kids here, and this was a concern. So at this point, we don't have many games left. I know it will, I think, factor into my thoughts for basketball, that, because you're inside and all that, and I will be more concerned if we do open it up like that and have people coming from inside from other higher caseload places.
Did we ever get numbers for schools? Because I know that was really my main concern, is do these other schools we're playing have numbers within their school? So does anybody know that?
If you go to that link, and I can send it to you, as I look at every day that the state put out where there's a school tab, you can scroll down it, and I think Ann sent it to us too, but you can scroll down it and it shows all the schools, and if they've had a case and they reported a case.
So nobody knows this.
I haven't looked at that.
Okay.
I haven't looked at that.
We have our AD right there online if you guys want to ask him a question. Because you can ask him if he's looking up those numbers, because he very well may be.
Right, that's kind of what I assumed, that if we were going.
So why don't we ask the person who knows?
And he did say he was going to look at case numbers in the meeting.
Hey, Sam, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So Kayla, you want to ask your question to Sam directly?
So Sam, do you know, out of the schools that the varsity teams are playing, are there cases in those actual schools?
I do know that I don't look on the what Holly is looking at, but I am in constant contact with every AD, with every school that we play. We have what we're calling the Cheshire County League. Yes, Wilton's in it, but they play everybody that we play, so I didn't think that was going to be a problem. But I am in conversation with them almost every day. And there has not been any reported cases in their schools. And everybody was in agreement that if there was a case in one of those schools that we played, that it would be shut down. The league would be shut down completely. And there hasn't been any yet.
Okay. No, that's good to know. Yeah. I do have a question about when we went to Concord Christian. I noticed like we're playing Wilton, and our boys and girls are playing them on different days. But when we went to Concord Christian, we played them the same day. Did we take one bus over or two?
We took a 56 passenger coach bus over there so that everybody could space out.
So there was room to space out. Okay, because that was one question that I got, because I said, well, in the meeting we were told that the teams would not travel together, but I would ask and see if there was room to space out, and that makes sense if you took a coach bus rather than a school bus or whatnot.
Yes, I did try to get a school bus. Unfortunately, I tried to get 2 of them. They didn't have them. So then I called Thomas Transportation to get those in. Unfortunately, we lost a couple games because NHIA is doing an open tournament. So we lost 4 or 5 games. So I was just trying to fill the schedule and give the kids the best opportunity to play.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And I just have one more question while I have you right there. But hold on. What was my question? Oh, it was just more of a comment that, and I totally get it, because I saw on the schedule, I was looking on the NHIAA site, and it was, one day something be canceled and it wasn't canceled like the day before, so I understand that it was fluid and you were trying to get people, and I know like an hour and 15 isn't, whatever. It's, even though you had said an hour, like I said, and I listened to the meeting, went back and listened to the meeting, and, especially when we were approving all these plans, there's so many moving pieces. So I totally get it. But it was said that if you looked at a school that was more than an hour away, you would consult with the principal and the superintendent and send an email to the school board. And just if that happens going forward, if we do basketball, whatever, just, if we come up with a way, just so we're not blindsided. Because I was like, I had a very concerned community member, and I was like, oh, what do you mean went to Concord? Concord's like an hour and a half away. We couldn't have gone to Concord. And, oh, okay, sorry. So just so if we agree to that, maybe just so everybody is at least understanding. And like you said, when they made this like Cheshire kind of league thing, which makes sense. That way we could say, oh, well, this is because blah, blah, blah. And we were at least aware of it.
Yeah. The Wilton thing, I mean, I kind of wish that this was on the agenda. And I'm glad I could be on tonight to give you these answers. The Wilton, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but both Sean and Wayne did get copies of the schedule, and Wilton was on those. And I mean, we had the meeting with the Cheshire County before I had the meeting with you guys. So maybe Wilton slipped out, and if that did happen, that's my fault. And I apologize if that happened.
That's the other thing, actually, I had a note about. Thank you for reminding me about the schedule. In the meeting, Jim asked if the board could get a copy of the schedule, and the board didn't. It wasn't the full board. So just, it would just, so that way, just to keep us in the loop, because, we get calls, and I was totally impressed with your presentation. I totally liked your plan. So I was behind it, and we get calls. So we just want to be as knowledgeable when people call us, so then they don't think something weird's happening,
Yep.
Yeah. No, and I think overall you're doing a good job. It's a hard thing, it's good for the kids, and not everyone's going to follow it, just like with the school. I know there's mask issues at the schools with some of the older kids and middle school kids.
Masks at the
Yeah.
field, I got yelled at.
Yeah, well, I don't mean the adults, I would hope. The adults. Well, actually, anyway.
Well, I was sitting all by myself. He's like,
But,
put it on.
yeah.
So we have a lot to do in non-public, so.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to be nice and
Absolutely.
make sure,
I'm just
I'm
trying to
not
keep us on
whatever.
track.
Yeah.
Trying to keep us on track.
Thank you, Sam, very much.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you very
Welcome.
much for being available.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, the other thing's for later.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Yes,
So you're good?
yes.
Um,
I flipped my
do
page,
that.
it was like-
So let's do the town dog licenses and the election results. Jim, I take it you're doing that?
Yes,
That
so
was very
that's
intriguing.
been resolved,
Oh,
and
cool.
the analysis, then Joe's actually got some stuff here. So why don't you go first, and then I'll announce what it was. And thank you to Amy for that. Huh? Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna turn it over to Joe. It was
I don't know
success,
if you want paper. It wasn't.
it was successfully completed.
Fine with me.
Yeah, I'm good.
So, Mrs. King was our lead on this once again, and she loves doing it. I don't know if you can hear me as I walk around. So I'll wait a minute.
Thank you.
Fine, that's fine.
So Mrs. King's fourth grade class always has taken the lead on this, and sometimes it's been a bigger project, and she's done some math and used spreadsheets on it. This year, the interesting twist that she applied was that we weren't really able to cross our cohorts. So how do we get all the voting done? So she used, with her 4th grade team and the other teachers, Ms. Garish and Ms. Jermaine, they used Microsoft Teams, the forms survey. And this is the result that you can see from the survey of the 4th graders. And she had hoped to be able to kind of expand it to school-wide and get more votes, but it was just too time consuming and to try and get everybody on board. But I think the results I remember was the big paw. And it's a little misleading. It's like those color tests when the color is different from the actual winner. Gold one, not red.
I know.
But gold
This
was
looks like
the color
red.
chosen, and the big paw. But I do think, you know, that in this year, it's nice to keep doing some routines that have been done in the past, so that all those things, you know, kind of make the kids feel a lot more comfortable that things that are done before are done again, and kind of gives them that kind of sense of, you know, of the sameness that we were hoping for in some degree. So it was a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. Again, thank you to Ann. Julie Seymour was very pleased to, again, have us do this. She thought it was a great choice. She said thank you to the district and Joe and the school and Ann for continuing to do it. And she sort of echoed the same thing. It's nice to have the continuity in place. Sort of reassuring to know that we'll get through this without disrupting everything. And she did say that the her contact, which I don't think is the state, I think it's a company that contracts the state, was very excited and thought this was a great idea and one of the best ideas she had heard. So it's nice to know that we're sort of doing stuff like that, an innovator type thing. So thank you again.
Cool, that's it. Does anyone have anything for Jim or Joe?
And I know if the class could be here, they really wish they could be here, but they understand.
So when you get your dog license this year in Hinsdale, and Joe.
Awesome, thanks you both. All right, review of the code of conducts. All right. So last month, we talked about updating the code of conduct to include remote elements. And I put that piece of paper somewhere. So it looks like we have a sample of what one district is doing. Is that what that is, Ann? It's a sample?
I just went on to see if we could find something, and I did put this through to the AT, and especially talk to Deb and Karen Thompson about it. And except for the little wording up there about God or something.
Oh yeah, that would need to be removed.
That would need to be removed.
Yeah.
The rest of it, they thought was awesome. And they're both on here so they can talk about it if you have any questions.
Kayla?
The only thing I noticed was it didn't say anything about not recording.
Yeah, that was the
And
impetus.
I
for the
actually
whole
have
thing.
that too. It does,
Yeah.
doesn't address recording and distribution of classroom materials and lessons.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was, and then where it says, the last bullet under the students agree, the first students agree to use Microsoft Teams app, says or diminish the loving and safe environment. And I thought maybe saying respectful and safe would be more appropriate.
Wait, where are you?
Which one was that?
So the top says students agree to use the Microsoft Teams app according to the following guidelines. The last bullet, it's the second sentence. Any words or actions that threaten or diminish the loving and safe. I just thought maybe respectful would be a little more school appropriate.
Yeah.
And it is loving, but
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it,
Yeah,
right. That's just the only other little thing other than the godly character.
Yeah, I agree.
Did anyone else have anything? And I think our current policy is in here too, if you want to. Well, hopefully you've already looked at it, but, you know.
Instead of broadly character, you say.
Pacer, we have the
Oh,
acronym.
yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, something like
yeah,
the
tie
pacer,
it
whatever.
into, you know,
Yeah.
exemplify the PACER model.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Right there, if anybody needs it.
Oh, yeah.
I have one other question.
yes.
This was obviously taken from somewhere. Is there a concern of some sort of plagiarism or?
No, we plagiarize that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
No, we're good in that respect.
I'm like,
Plagiarism
Providence
is not
Classical
an issue.
School might have an issue with us using their.
They might have plagiarized it.
No, then they may have used one of ours, and, I mean, you know what I mean? So it's,
Yeah.
Policies are different than.
I knew that.
anything from anybody?
Just adding that part,
Yeah, they're recording.
the recording.
So with those modifications,
Can you tell me what you want as?
I say we probably need to create that modification.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
so you want that to, so if we added that bullet, let's see, students will not record and redistribute classroom materials or lessons. Does that work?
I think so.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Should we say, with redistribute or modify?
Oh, yeah, modify, because that was part of
Because
the
that
issue
was like
too.
meaning your
Okay.
teacher, that was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
classroom lessons.
Or
Classroom
materials.
materials or lessons. Actually, I have materials / lessons. Not that it probably matters.
And or.
Have the principals seen this, and you guys are okay? Joe, you're okay?
I like it because one of our big issues now is what kids are doing in chat,
Yes.
and I like this.
Yes, and I remember you mentioned that, so,
They don't chat nicely.
okay.
Still,
All right, so then I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the code of conduct for remote learning as amended.
Is there a second?
yeah, I'll second.
Motion and a second to accept the code of conduct for remote learning as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And thank you for everyone involved in researching that to find us something that we could, because, it's very helpful. That we could add in
Something
there.
we could plagiarize.
Something
That we could add in there and not have to come up from scratch. All right, so now we have the job description updates. Now, these are the job descriptions that were affected when we switched the director of curriculum instruction to full-time and made Polly's position. And I just wanted everyone to go through it because we should update them. Because right now we have employees working with job descriptions that aren't completely accurate. And I don't think that's a really good practice. So this is what the changes are to those existing job descriptions.
Sean, do you want to do them together or separately?
We can do them all together if you want, or separately, it's up to you.
So for the executive assistant to the superintendent, director of human resources.
Yep.
Wow, that's a title. Responsible for keeping the board minutes, meeting dates, calendar, and any other items as directed by the superintendent. Did we move that to the CEIA?
We did. Yep. Or at least the minutes.
The
Yeah.
minutes are, the
Okay.
calendars and all that stuff.
Okay, so just the board.
Which bullet is that?
Oh,
From the
that
from the
is
bottom
I
would
thought
be
The
easiest.
back page near the bottom. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5,
Six.
6 from the bottom.
Yeah, but Ann still keeps the board minutes. She keeps records of it.
Okay.
Oh, actually, you
So
mean,
it's
you mean
just keeping
keeping.
that
So,
taken.
right, yeah, so
Okay.
you,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
because you
And
still keep
updating
them.
the website,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
we have to have those in one place.
Right.
Okay.
So then why is it highlighted? My understanding was the highlighted things we're gonna change.
Well, that is a change.
Yeah, see, we don't
Shouldn't
have the
I have
other one,
already
to co- we don't have the one to
These are all
compare it to.
new. They weren't in the job description to begin with.
So the bottom, on the second page, all these highlighted are additions.
Yes.
I
And
think,
the
I
same
think,
with Detributal.
I think these are things that you were doing all along. They just were never in your job description. So
Exactly.
now they're in your job description.
Exactly, and there's probably more, but I can't think of it.
Going forward, do we want to set the precedent for the wellness coordinator too? This is like so many things. Like, I know you
Well,
do it,
the
Ann, but is
VA
someone else gonna?
Usually it's human resources that
Okay.
takes care of the wellness.
Okay. That is a lot.
I have a question, just to back, off of what Kayla said about the keeping the minutes. How is it worded in the curriculum administrative assistant? Because keeping makes it sound like you keep, how is it worded? Is it,
That's gonna be coming next, because that wasn't in her original job description.
okay, do you know how
Yes,
it's
it will be the recorder of the.
recorder? Okay, that's what I was gonna say. How's it worded to be like
It'll
the
be
actual
recorder of the
a
minutes.
recorder.
I'm gonna start writing
Okay.
a few job
Yeah.
descriptions every
Okay.
month to get some updates, because we do need some updating on quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay,
And the
no,
last
that's,
time the board really looked at that
was
was
2014.
2013.
14,
Yeah.
yeah, 34, yeah.
Yeah.
No, keeping and recording,
Yeah.
that, I
Yes.
get, okay, yeah, that
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 makes
makes sense.
Anybody, anything?
No,
Oh, I had one other note. At the top of the back page, the facilitate writing and monitoring of idea grant in collaboration with the Director of Social Services. I know, again, that you do that. Is that typical, that this is just so many different things?
I am slowly going to be, right now Patty's helping me with some of this, but we don't know where it's gonna go after this year, so I don't wanna change it right now.
Because it would be nice to maybe get that off the laundry list.
Yes.
Wayne?
My hope is that when we revise the job description for a position we'll be hiring next fall, we include that.
Okay.
And that's our hope. We find someone who can do that. That's the.
But I am training other people to do other things. It's gonna be a slow process. Like Pollock is doing such a great job on the, I can't even remember what it's called now. The certifications and, update ED stuff and all that.
And that's a lot. So that's
Yes,
a big plus.
yes.
Jim, anything?
No.
Julia, anything?
Nope.
Polly, anything else? Kayla, nothing else? The only other thing that I had was on the Director of Technology was to be attending board meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't, it doesn't matter to me whether it's in person or remote,
What's the what?
And
Sorry.
attending board meetings.
Oh,
I
okay.
think anyone who sends us a report every month needs to be at the board meeting.
Agreed.
And there's like boilerplate language on several other people's job descriptions. They probably just copy and paste that about attendance at board meetings.
probably,
Like it's
yeah,
on a couple,
probably.
it's on several of their job descriptions. So yeah.
Yep.
So that should be,
So
a simple one.
Easy enough.
Yep.
So Wayne, we need a motion to accept their,
The revisions.
Yep.
Yep. That's okay. We can always bring them back a couple months from now and.
oh, sure, yeah, at any time, yep. All right, is there a motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion to accept them.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to accept the modified job descriptions. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, what do we got next? All right. Final reading of policies JLCJ, EHAC, GBGA, GBAA, and IHAM.
I'll make a motion to accept the final reading on those policies.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second to accept that group of policies as a final reading. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so we're down to other old business. Any other business to be conducted by the board? Anyone have anything?
I agree.
All right, go, Jim.
Very quickly, there was a photograph in the packet, which is the latest wall tile that the fifth grade did. So we did follow through and by HEF, and we got that installed. Again, thanks to Joe. We will be coordinating some publicity. We had a very short meeting briefly to discuss that before this meeting, so that will move forward. The fifth graders, we're now sixth graders, will get their tiles, so we'll accomplish that. HEF also wanted to let you know that the mini grants are still in place. Joe knows about it per that meeting, but and if you hear of any teachers who have a project that could use some support, financial support, you know, you should just let HEF know, and I guess you person. And thank you for that.
Anyone have any questions for Jim? No? All right, anybody have anything else?
I have another kind of general question.
Go ahead.
And it may be in the technology report, but it more relates back. The more we talk about this remote, I know the laptops at the elementary school have been an issue.
In what way?
They're not here still, right?
The 116.
Oh, those ones. The ones that would never ship, that would
Right.
ship,
Ones
but
that
then
we
went to
don't
The
wrong
ones
place.
that were supposed to have
Those
the
ones,
second
all
and
right.
fifth graders.
I apologize to everybody. I've already been up for 14 hours and
I know, I'm sure. Well, the more, I just kind of keeps coming up in my mind, so I wanted to ask Joe, because we've been spending a big part of the evening talking about kind of, turn on a dime remote possibilities. And you're looking at a student body who, most of them do not have laptops, which was our intention. The reason we approved this going into this school year was because we knew the remote, instantaneous remote was a possibility. So is there, like, do we have like
I think
super backup packets or something? Maybe how is that gonna be?
Well, that's gonna be a real challenge, I think,
Yeah.
for us to, if there is something that would change, we're not gonna be able to have the packets ready that day. They're gonna have
Right.
to probably do something similar to what we did in March and need a couple days to prepare the package and have them picked up at that point in time. I don't think we're in this, my opinion is we're not in the same position that, when we first closed, it was like, don't touch anything. It would be
Right,
limited because
right.
that one room, so the paper would be able to go back and forth. It would just be a couple days probably to prepare.
I was just thinking in my head, and I apologize if I got off track, but how much more of a challenge the elementary school faces with the remote learning
And
due to that restriction.
I haven't really heavily analyzed some information that Debbie has sent in. We don't have still a lot of technology in the home, but there's more, the ones that we do have, we can
Right.
reach them.
Right.
But it just creates that digital divide
Mm-hmm.
for someone.
So I know that was off track, but I didn't know if those computers, if we had good news, and I apologize if it's in the technology report. And
I think she has an update, but no, ask the question.
See, I just looked back through because I was like, yeah, you're right. I didn't think there was an update on that.
I thought she had an
there
update
was.
in there.
So that
I
could
didn't
just be,
see it
I
when
could
I
have
did
just
it.
missed that, and all they're speaking about, being able to make quick decisions for remote learning
It's the
based
first-
on
it's the
circumstance.
first paragraph.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
So,
I didn't see
I-
and
that.
that's great. I appreciate that, Deb, for giving us that update. And I apologize if I missed it. I was more directing towards Joe, knowing that as of right now, something should happen tomorrow. We're in a stressful situation without those laptops.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
It says
That's a lot.
that,
That's a lot.
They've said that the timeline is still October, November.
Well, that's good. Why not?
And new purchases would be January, so I don't know. I mean, that was written on the 6th, so
So we can
we
get,
don't have them yet.
yeah, we can get more updates on that when we get to the technology
Yes,
report.
I apologize
No
for
problem.
being distracted.
Does anybody else have anything? The only thing that I have is at our last meeting, knowing that we were going to be some time in between meetings, we had asked for an update midway, and we never got it. You know, unless you guys got it and I didn't, but we never got an update on what was going on.
I sent it to you, Sean.
I don't,
Emailed it
I have,
on the 23rd September.
I have that the numbers of students that were out of the building.
So is
That
there
one?
something I'm missing? Maybe I thought we were talking about the number of staff and students who were sent home relative to COVID.
I had thought we had wanted an update on
The general.
like just what was going on in the buildings, what was happening, what was, just what was going on, all of the stuff.
Like a mini report.
Well,
Yeah.
it's in the motion. I had looked it up last week.
Because I have the one where you said, as of the dates, there's this many students have been sent home from one building and the other. I did get that.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
If I misunderstood.
Go ahead.
In the motion on, when we approved the return to school plan, one of the items that the board added was to report to the board in between monthly meetings every other week suggested. So I think that was like the general report you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But to the board.
let's clarify, because
Yeah.
if we
Mhm.
weren't
Absolutely.
clear, that's not
Yeah.
right. So let's clarify. I was thinking a general update on like everything that was going on, not just, students that were out, sick with, not obviously, the virus, but with other stuff. But I was thinking more general update, what are our challenges? What are we doing? Like, I know we were having problems with how are school and teams syncing up together. That would have been good to know, things like that. Is that what you guys were thinking?
That's
Or were
what
you
I
guys
thought.
thinking medical updates?
I was thinking of,
You were thinking
and I
medical?
think that was my comment.
Okay. I believe you're correct. What was your impression?
I mean, I can't really put myself back in the conversation. I'm thinking that challenges, certainly, but again, at the administration's, what they've seen as challenges, or we might, obviously, any health-related, COVID-related issues, since this request was driven primarily due to the pandemic, anything related to that, I expect that we would get an update on.
What was your, or maybe I shouldn't say what was your impression, because obviously we were unclear, so that's not,
Right.
so we can't hold someone to
Yeah.
something that we weren't clear on. That's not right. That's not fair. Do you guys still want to have updates between meetings? Is the first question. Yes?
Yeah.
I would
Yes.
assume if there's a medical, any sort of emergency, we're gonna be notified pretty immediately anyway.
Yeah, but I
would,
think it's just more of a trend.
Trend,
And I think it doesn't hurt to write down like how are things going.
Like bullet
I think
points
it
or
kind of,
something.
like,
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
first question was, do we still want updates between meetings? And is the answer yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
would.
And do we want to be more of a more rounded update, or do you guys want to stick with just whatever?
I think a
stuff?
short summary that would not impact anybody's already probably time-consuming duties
Right.
would be good. Just because we meet every 4 weeks, it would be good to have that sort of very short summary, the 2-week interval.
I mean, and really it's because of everything that's going on. There's so much.
Yeah, and like, our next meeting is in 3 weeks, so maybe it's not as critical, but it's been 5 weeks now since our last meeting, and looking ahead to the calendar, I forget what months, but there's gonna be another month or two because of how Wednesdays fall, that we're gonna have 5 weeks between meetings, which during this time, 5 weeks was, I felt like it was an incredibly long amount of time where
I felt like I blinked and we're here again.
well, no, but I was just like, we didn't know what was going on. We'd hear stuff, and whatever. And 5 weeks, my gosh, that is a long time, especially when we met so much during the summer when we usually
Right.
don't. And then now all of a sudden, like, it was 5 weeks went by.
Well,
So
and I
yeah,
think it was important to stay out of, honestly, and
Yeah.
it's just because I'm tired. I don't know what other way to put this. I think it was important for us to stay out of everyone's way.
yeah.
I really did. Caleb?
I think honestly, just like bullet points, I don't think it needs to be like each category or anything cumbersome, just like brain dump.
Yeah,
That's what's
and I
going
think that's, I mean, Wayne, is that okay, or is that gonna put,
Whatever you guys want, that's what
well, we don't wanna put a burden on you either.
So I can add, I can do it. So it's 3 weeks, so you like 10 days kind of thing?
I don't think.
Maybe
For
that's
this
what
one,
we're
I don't
next
think this,
meeting.
I don't think between this one and the next one we need one, but then after that,
And then after that, every
yeah,
couple weeks.
yeah. I mean,
We can do that.
if that's, and like I said, we weren't clear, so, you
Yeah.
know. Everyone good with that?
Yeah.
All right. So now it is clear. All right, so are you guys all set now with other business? All right, so financial report. Tom, are you still there, or did you fall asleep?
I'm wide awake. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I wish I was.
I apologize. I had a list of about 6 bullet points that didn't make it into the packet, and I'm reviewing them here now. I just think there's a couple of them that I'd like to mention. One item that you would not see in the financial reports that were attached is, but would be in the manifest, is the $75,000 check was prepared to go to the trustee of the trust funds from the ending fund balance available as of June 30th, 2020. So I just wanted to mention that that is there in the manifest. Also, there's an item that is on the financial report. There's an encumbrance in the line that's at the last page of the expenditure report for $19,850, and that is the purchase order to Snowling on the SAU flooring project. And I know we're going to have conversation at the end of the meeting about facilities report out, but I just wanted to mention that that's in there, and that PO has been prepared, not released at this point in time. And then finally, something that occurred after I wrote the report, the USDA has now extended its waivers out through the end of the school year. So as we discussed last meeting, all of those items that were out through December 31st or when funding runs out are now extended out through June 30th. And they didn't say when funding runs out, but I assume that that's still the same condition.
Cool. Does anybody have any questions for Tom?
I do.
Go ahead.
So thank you, Tom, for including the tentative school meeting schedule. So I do have, Tom and I talked about this and right after our last meeting, and because I had a budget committee meeting coming up. So I gave it to the budget committee as a tentative, as it says tentative, but I really stressed it because we weren't going to be looking at it until tonight. And 2 comments the budget committee had was on here on the week of November 9th and the week of November 16th. November 9th is admin review of budget and prepare school board docs, and the week of November 16th is set school board budget review schedule. There is a request from a budget committee member. Can we do those all on the same date, merge those together so that, you know, they get things earlier? And the second request was that they do want the budget earlier than January. None of them liked January as the timeline for them getting the budget. So I told them I would, about those 2 dates, you know, merging those 2 tasks. I said I'd have to talk to Tom or, you know, the admins, because I don't know what's involved in admin review and all that other stuff. But so those are the requests from the budget committee.
So would that basically be us sitting in with the admin when they were reviewing it? Reviewing it at the same time?
Yeah, I'm not sure. When it says set school board budget review schedule, I think the week of the 16th, that I took that to mean that they're just coming up with the schedule that we're going to meet on, because then December is school board review, budget review. So I think the budget committee wants to kind of compress stuff in that time frame so that they get the budget earlier than January. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Do they usually get it before January?
It varies.
It varies. A couple of years ago, they had it
Yeah.
real early.
We had a few years where,
Yeah.
where it was, but then,
So
it got more difficult.
they're going to get the budget understanding that subject to change if they want it earlier, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, it's always, I
I
think,
mean, obviously.
Everything's
I mean,
subject to
it's okay.
change to a certain degree, but
by the time they get it, we've gone through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that realistic?
That's what I'm asking, and that's why I think they wanted to see if we could squeeze some of the other dates. So that's like a Tom and an admin question. I mean, I would like to somehow go back and give them a little bit of, yeah, you can have it sooner, just so you know, because I think it'll be very hostile if I'm like, you have to, no, we can't do this till January, because they were not happy at all.
I mean, part of the issue, and Tom or anyone, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the issue that we're going to have with budget, and especially with the revenues, is everything that's going on right now.
Oh, I tried, yeah.
Do you know
Oh,
what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't know how realistic it is, to tell them, we can have it, so much earlier when we don't know what's happening. And
Yeah,
we
no.
don't know,
Election.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I'm just
but
saying.
that being said, I want to see it before the budget committee sees it.
Oh, we have to.
Right.
Yeah.
And other than that, I'm flexible.
Yeah, I mean, because it just says December school board reviews, January budget committee. So maybe if it's a way we could review it in early December, I would hope it would be early December. It has to be because school's on vacation. So
What you typically would do is have the first Wednesday
In December.
be the meeting where you talk about it, and then
at our next meeting,
at the next meeting.
yeah. Yeah, it's like a work session the first Wednesday, and and then we do.
But I guess the other thing that we're really thinking of is I'm not going to do it at a regular board meeting either.
No,
That's
we
what I'm
usually
saying.
don't. We
Yeah.
do a work
Yeah.
session. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be a
I just
work-
want to make that perfectly clear
Yeah.
because
We-
budget is too complex and involved to
Yeah,
tack it on to a school board.
Yeah,
meeting.
we usually do.
Yeah.
She's right. We usually do a work meeting
Yeah.
the first Wednesday.
So
But then it's like, okay, do they want to meet right before Christmas?
no, they
Well,
won't.
well,
Right.
yeah. I mean,
So then January.
so it has to be, yeah. I mean, unless if what they're saying is move other stuff up, which
But
it doesn't
elections
sound
are
like.
in November, and that has such a large impact. It would be
And you also have a
inappropriate.
holiday in November.
Yeah, believe me, all this. I told them I'd say it. Yeah.
No one's
No.
attacking.
No,
you.
no, no, no. I'm not saying you are, but I mean, all of this has been
Right.
thrown out there.
Oh, I know.
And
I've sat across from that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're it's like validating because yes, you know.
Yeah, they're not going to
they're-
be happy, but.
No.
December meeting is probably
Yeah, and then the next week is basically Christmas week.
23.
Yeah.
Right. So do they want to meet
Yeah.
on Christmas Eve?
So wait a second. So do they want the budget before January, or do they want to meet with us before? Because those are two different things.
That's true. That's
Because
true.
let's say we met on, was it the 1st?
You would meet on December 2nd.
All right, so let's say we met on the 2nd and had our work session.
And then we met on the night.
Right, and then we met on the 9th and did our questions, whatever, and then they can have it after that.
But don't meet with us till January.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have my notes clear enough with me. I didn't bring my notes from that meeting, but yeah, those are two very different things. So
That should appease.
yeah, I mean, I think they definitely should. If we can say we can have it, get it to you after our meeting on the 9th.
Yep.
You can.
I thought we were the first Wednesday. Where's the ninth? Are you suggesting three
The-
Wednesdays in a row?
No,
in
the
December?
no, the 9th is our meeting. That's one of those 5-week deals because of how we have a bunch of Wednesdays. 'cause
Oh, I thought
we're-
you said the 16th.
Well,
No.
I thought they would be the budget committee's meeting.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. If the
sorry.
budget committee meet, yeah, if they meet, and yeah.
That's what their typical schedule
Oh,
is.
Yeah.
okay, okay. I thought you were suggesting we meet the second. the
Oh, no,
ninth,
no,
and
yeah,
the
we're meeting
16th.
on the 9th. So yeah, so they could have it after like that,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to do the whole, like I said, I don't want to do any kind of whole budget thing at one of our meetings, but if we get a copy of it sometime before the 2nd, so we can come to that meeting with our questions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be a Tom question.
Tom.
Now he's sleeping.
So
Tom ran away.
my answer to the question, can you have a copy of the budget sometime before December 2nd,
Which does not mean
Specify.
December 1st.
which
That's
does
what
not mean the 1st, okay? How about November 30th?
That's the month, that could be the Monday before.
I can't hear that.
She said that would be the Monday before.
That would be the
Like
Monday
that, I
before
know.
the meeting. And the
Yeah,
week
'cause
before
we-
that is Thanksgiving at the end of the week.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
so
Yep.
I guess that's.
Yeah.
And basically, see the thing that has to take place before you guys can have a budget that's really solid is that all the components have to be assembled in that budget. And there's work that has to take place there. And under current conditions, I don't have a lot of support members to be involved with that review. I mean, everybody is so stretched, and if I start handing out drafts of budget to a lot of folks and say, well, please review this, and then let's have a meeting and talk about it and make sure that all the pieces are intact, that's a tough one, and particularly in the area of the payroll components of the budget. So I'm really, I know I'm dragging my feet here, but I'm really trying not to over promise
Yeah,
dates. to you
don't
guys.
overpromise. If you
Yeah.
can't do it, just say you can't do it.
Yeah, and I'll just
Um,
tell them, yeah.
Well, and
Uh,
that, we can get it the 30th, and then we meet on the 2nd.
Well, because Tom's trying to politely tell us that he probably can't have it ready by then.
That-
Well, I'm
that's
trying to
what-
do it
that's
on the
what he
fly,
said.
Sean.
That's what I heard too.
Oh, I thought he was saying he could do
I
it.
know,
the
I
30th.
heard it. I heard very politely, like, I'd like to do that for you, but
Yeah, and
not overly
honestly,
optimistic it's gonna happen.
honestly, on the schedule, the way that I mapped it out, I said the school board would do its budget review in December. Well, that was anticipating that your meeting was on the 9th and the budget would be available to go out to you on the 2nd. So, I can back that up a couple of days, but probably not a full week
No,
backing
I
that up.
don't think we'd
Yeah,
expect
so
you to
the
do that.
I think Monday's fine.
Yeah.
So then Monday the 30th would be okay, or?
Yeah.
That's a couple days.
So are
I mean,
you?
is that okay with you guys?
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay
Yeah.
with a couple of days. With 30th.
Yeah, that,
Yeah, Jim? Yeah, and that way we could come with questions on the 2nd. Right?
Are you having a meeting on the 2nd? A
Well,
work
that's, I guess
session?
what we're discussing, right?
I think we historically, like Ann said, have a work session. But,
That's just with administration.
yeah, and board administration,
Right.
yeah.
Okay,
Is
sounds
everybody-
workable to me.
Are you guys okay with that? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's do that as a goal then, and then that would give us time to get to the budget committee sooner.
So we could get the budget committee, after, December 9th.
After the night.
I would
Okay.
say a couple of days after that, Holly. just
Probably
in
the
case there's-
following week.
Yeah, changes
Do you know
or
what I mean?
things, yeah. So how about if I say, wait, let me get the calendar back up. December, 14th or 15th or something like that, that gives you like enough, or if you want to say, well, because we're going to have probably a budget committee meeting on the 16th, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to,
They don't normally meet
Look.
in December, do they?
yeah, because we're getting the town budget like next week or something. So we would still be working through town. I don't think we'd ever really be looking at the school, but they want it to have it to look at. They just want it. So yeah, I could tell them what I
What's
could
the following
do
Monday?
after the 9th,
Yeah.
the 14th. What I could do
Just say the 15th.
Just say the week of.
is
The
if,
week of.
yeah, and
the
if we have a budget committee meeting on the 16th, and I'm gonna be really nice here, I could, and I don't even know how they get printed anymore, because there was, sometimes Ann prints them, sometimes Peter had printed that, you know what I mean? So I'm like,
I usually print it on the computer.
okay,
Yeah,
so
we need to
Pete, so
clear it
Peter did it.
Just like, "What's
So
that?"
I could come and get them, and I could just take them to the budget committee meeting on the 16th. So I could tell them I will bring it to you on the 16th.
They're probably, James is going to.
James
James
is
isn't on
not
it.
there anymore.
Really?
No, actually, the chair is Dennis Nadu and the vice chair is Ken Howe.
Oh.
And
Because
James,
typically they want it before.
No,
Okay.
but we wouldn't, I don't think we'd be talking about it. I think we're probably still gonna be doing town,
Okay,
I think, but
then that works.
I don't know. I mean, we have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks, so I will find out.
If
What
not,
they
they
say.
could have it the 15th if they need it.
That's only the day before
I,
though.
I mean, I would say that's the date that they can have it, and can't meet with them in December.
No, we're not gonna,
you
we're gonna
know,
meet with them
But that's the date they
in,
can have it, and they can review it, and they can have it for a couple weeks. and
until
then
we
can
meet with them. Yeah,
And
because
by
we're
that
gonna,
time, I mean,
we,
because one of their complaints is that they want more time to go through it themselves.
before
Okay,
us,
there you go.
absolutely, yeah.
That's answers that.
Yeah, because we always meet with them in January.
Yep.
Yeah, we've never. All right, so I'll let them know. I'll get with Ann so that I can get it to take to the meeting on the 16th.
Is
Good.
that work session gonna be at 6:15?
I don't know.
That's December.
Can I not think about that right now?
Well, I'm writing it down.
Just write down December 2nd.
Okay, fine.
I did have one other question for Tom. Not really a question. Tom and I had talked about this. It was brought up at my New Hampshire School Board Board of Directors meeting last month about the FEMA reimbursement. And Tom and I had brief discussion, and I was going to bring it up tonight. So FEMA was going to, and it was on the news, so some people might have heard it. I know emails went out to some people, but from the state or whatever, or whomever. But FEMA was planning on reimbursing districts who put in for reimbursement for COVID-related, PPE and whatnot costs, like over the amount of what they got. They were going to use CARES funds for some, but then many districts are also spending their own funds. And then FEMA reversed itself and decided that COVID is not, FEMA doesn't pay for the day-to-day operations of schools, and COVID didn't fit into a federal emergency that they should manage. So they pulled out, and districts are not getting any they can't put in for FEMA reimbursement of any monies that they spend. And so, we talked about that at our board meeting, and, everybody was, going, talk with your board, find out, how that impacts you, if it impacts you. So my question is for whomever is involved in this, were we going to put in for FEMA reimbursement, to FEMA for any reimbursement of any funds we plan to spend or did spend? Some districts have already spent money, like bigger ones like Manchester and whatnot. And how much do you anticipate we were going to put in that now we, aren't going to get reimbursed for?
So, since nobody else has answered the question, so we had the 188 in CARES, which I think is now 175. We anticipated a couple weeks, which we have not totally expended yet.
Okay.
We have free PPE that Ann has been working with the state, which is really FEMA expense. Then, so all of the stuff that we have is indirectly FEMA. And we had anticipated and still anticipate by the end of November another round of CARES, and if things don't change, my guess is this will continue every 2 months. There'll be something. So we have the needs that we've identified for COVID expenses that are clear and easy. We've put into our CARES budget, which has already been approved by the state. But we do, if there's more money coming, we have other expenses already lined out. In fact, Kat has met with several people, as she is the architect of the grant. And she can probably speak to that under her report if you like. So we've already got lined up some things that we could expend. So whether it's FEMA money or other Fed CARES money, I think it's more of a political ploy right now. And it's really hard to track because it changes for no reason sometimes.
So are you saying that we aren't planning, I mean, I know we haven't spent any yet, but we aren't really planning to spend any of district money on any of this because it was going to be covered by CARES or free PPE and whatnot. And so we weren't planning on putting in anything to be reimbursed by FEMA. Okay, well,
they're still building the second round.
Oh, okay, because there is no more reimbursement by FEMA for FEMA. They just aren't.
Still anticipated CARES.
Yeah. So that's not going to cost us anything because, like I said, some of the other districts, were already knew they were out a substantial amount of money
Right.
because like they were planning on getting it reimbursed by FEMA and then they backtracked. So that's kind of where I thought we were when talking that like CARES was going to cover things and the free PPE and it wasn't going to affect us. But I definitely wanted to make sure of that, because that was one of the things they really said, make sure, you know where you stand, because some districts there was an article I think about, might have been Conval, is having to ask all their member towns, in their SA, in their cooperative SEU, whatever that, we're going to need some money.
Fiasco with the tent.
Oh, the tent
company.
too, yeah.
So there's some districts that are really overextended.
Yeah, exactly.
We were able to cover a lot of the expenses in our operational budget, and unfortunately, the revenue side of the conversation with the budget committee is going to be very, very difficult. So the longer we can kick that can down the road, the better. If all of the things that we're spending that we can relate to COVID, because there are COVID, between now and the end of the year, that'll change the bottom line in regards to what we're able to give back and probably impact our budget somewhat next year. But that's a whole different conversation right now because we just so
unpredictable. Okay. And one thing they also stressed was that boards need to be kept in the loop of the status of the application for the CARES money and how much has been spent. And thank you, Kat, I saw that was in your report. And you said it's been accepted. Did you say?
Been approved.
Approved. Okay,
Right.
approved.
So basically, we just spend the money.
Okay, yeah, because they said it was critical to complete the process and encumber your CARES fund, but this was like 2 weeks ago. So I see we're already
We had done
at that
a long time
place.
ago.
Okay, yeah. All right, cool. So those were only my 2 points.
All right. Anything else for Tom, anybody? No? All right, Tom, you're good. All right, the curriculum report.
So I just want to say again that the teachers have really been amazing. And I know that just as Ann and Joe have said, they are working flat out. They are getting very tired. Teaching 2 groups of people, one in front of you and one online, is twice the work. But they have done an amazing job so far. We just question what the capacity is to continue doing it. One of the interesting things in my position is that normally a curriculum director would take a year to get to know the district and walk around and do observational rounds, get a sense of what instruction looks like. It's really challenging right now because the instruction looks nothing the way it normally would in any other normal year. However, we're really starting to focus on reading as one area where we know there's some like it's not vertically aligned K through 12 to get the results that we want. So we're focusing on what we can do, and we're having discussions K through 12 now, which I think is great. Allie Mangan is our literacy specialist. She's basically our literacy coach. I've worked with other literacy coaches in the past, and Allie is right up there. Like, she really knows what needs to happen. So she's been focused on supporting teacher teams, assessing students, giving teachers the data and saying, hey, there's this group of students, what do you think they need? Or, asking questions, providing teachers with suggestions for instruction. I think that's going to be really helpful, not just this year, but also going forward. And we're starting to extend those conversations, I think, across the district. I've spoken with Gina Hammett, who's the librarian at the middle high school. Karen Robinson, I'm now going to be having conversations with. I've been in conversations with Patty Wallace and Terry Drobe, like getting everybody's feedback or their perspective on what the issues are and what we can do to fix them. It's looking like, we didn't get to this point overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. We're talking probably, I would say, 5 to 7 years as an ongoing process where a little bit of the work gets done each year. So I just want to make the board aware that that's probably going to be the process, that I think ELA needs to be reviewed each year as an ongoing process for the next several years until we're at that point where we're satisfied with the results that we're getting. So yep.
So since Reading Street is not aligned with the Common Core reading standards, should we be talking about switching our reading program, or is that like?
So I think first we need to have conversations both with, amongst ourselves as the instructional leaders and with teachers in terms of what do we want. If we focus just on improving scores, I think that's one way to think about it. I would prefer to think about how do we inspire our students to love reading? Because if we have passionate readers, they are going to not only improve we're not going to just have improved scores, but I really feel that we're going to produce lifelong learners. That's a completely different goal, and that's really a cultural shift within the district. Like, how do we support that? Gina, as our librarian, certainly has her thoughts on what that could look like. Having conversations with teachers would be helpful, but we're not there yet. We're just looking at where we know what's not working. We need to uncover more of what's not working, and we can get a sense of where would we like to go. And I think that no one person should be responsible for making those decisions, but I do think that engaging teachers in conversation and also helping them think differently. Like, if you're used to using Reading Street as your go-to program, how do we help teachers shift from thinking about the program to thinking about the standards? Right? That's another mind shift. How do we help the teachers maybe think about, well, we know that you're using Reading Street, but maybe you want to use less of Reading Street next year and maybe some more authentic books that could really get students hooked on reading. Could we do that over several years? What would that process look like? What are the assessments that we need? Like, in many districts that are doing this work where they want to improve reading, they're looking at data regularly. They're using Fountas and Pinnell. They're using benchmarks. They're tracking their students to make sure that kids are making progress. And as teachers use those assessments, they also become better at noticing what kids are able to do and where they need support. So it's kind of a holistic approach that we're just beginning at this point. And as I mentioned later in the report, we do have some PD money available in a grant. Having a conversation with Keys to Literacy about what this would look like K-12 and spending some of that money in that area, I think would be really helpful. So those are all kinds of things that are on the table at this point. Yeah.
Holly?
Oh, do you have another one?
No, go for it.
Okay. I just want to say, and you've said it before, and I know you just said it again, and then just want to say how much I appreciate that when I hear, that staff, and I'm not just saying teachers, but staff is stretched thin, they're overwhelmed, they're, exhausted, and teaching in person, live streaming to remote, and having an ancillary classroom. I mean, we are the only school in the area doing this. At the board of directors meeting, we were kind of chit-chatting as people were logging into Zoom. Oh, and these are like board chairs and vice chairs from other boards at New Hampshire School Board Association. We're on the board of directors. And what are your schools doing? What's your school doing? And when I said what we're doing, they're, oh my God, how is your people not going crazy? How are you? I'm like, well, they are going crazy. It's not easy. And and I know it's been said, flexibility, grace. We have good teachers. We have, and it's very rough. Some of them are, struggling. Some of them are, even if you're not struggling, everybody is exhausted, stretched thin. The mental health of the staff, Joe mentions it in his report, concerned about. So I appreciate that you've stressed that a couple times, because I think we have a board goal of culture of kindness for the administration and the board and whatnot. And I just hope it's happening. I hope there's grace being shown. So, and I hope, but thank you.
Anything else for Kat? Kayla?
This is my favorite. So just with the math and there is so much divergence, and it is, you know, they went through it. It's a fantastic program, but it is very, super, very involved. So I was just excited to see the mention of the, you know, the Common Core and kind of moving towards teaching to those, because it kind of tells you what you need and which skills and concepts. And so I'm very excited about everything you're doing, and I appreciate that even in a pandemic, you're making it all happen.
I don't know if I'm making it happen. I'm just noticing
Starting the
where we're
conversation.
at currently, and then thinking about what professional development would support teachers so that we can improve the outcomes. We know that we have the materials with Bridges,
Right. Yeah.
but there's so much to, I wonder if teachers, you know, K through 5, does everybody understand how a math lesson should be structured? Because if the amount of material is overwhelming, it can be difficult to prioritize that. So that's one of the things that I'm thinking of. And again, like curriculum documents could help structure that. Professional development would help structure that. We don't have much professional development time in terms of days, but sneaking into PLCs and having some conversations is another way of doing that. So, and, you know, just kind of focusing again for me on building those relationships with teachers so that we can have some of those conversations in years 2 and 3 after the pandemic is over. That would also be helpful.
Agreed. Thank you.
Jim?
Just very quickly, it was sort of a weird coincidence, you know, when I was reading your report, you talked about reading, and the latest NHS, the latest school board magazine, the national one, sorry about that, talked about writing, so I thought maybe you might have some thoughts about how you think the students are doing writing. Basically, the article said that nationally, students would need to write more.
So right now, we know that our students are having difficulty reading at the level that we want them to read. Encoding the process of writing is more difficult than decoding in the process of reading. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that our students are strong readers first. Students who read a lot actually become better writers because they know what good reading looks like. So we need to have, you know, strong readers and get them to a point where they are reaching some of the targets that we really want. And then we can get into comprehension. Then we can get into those higher level thinking skills, being able to compare texts, whether we're talking about comparing 2 fairy tales that are very similar or comparing 2 pieces of informational text, right? Once that's down, we can think about like, what does the writing look like? And the writing could be, you know, personally, I would say that I'm a fan of Writer's Workshop, but I also know that teachers also need to have some training and support around that, where students might write a list of topics that interest them. So maybe they're writing letters to their grandparents. Maybe they're talking about a subject that they're really passionate about, right? So that way they're using their experiences reading and understanding what language and sentence structure looks like as they're writing to communicate their ideas. But just as we want students to be passionate readers, we want students to view themselves as writers. And the idea that my ideas matter, right? I might be in 3rd grade, but my ideas matter and I can communicate them effectively to someone else. That will take time.
And does that strategy or thinking kind of vary as you get into the older grades as well?
We're just beginning with reading, and I've only been here now, like, what, 90 days? Right? So I want to get there, but my time here so far has been limited. The pandemic is not making things easier, but that is where I want to go.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anything? All right, thank you, Kat.
Thank
Technology, Deb, you're up.
Good evening. Would like to take any questions to my report. I do want to have a little bit of an addendum to the report. If I could, there was conversation about the first paragraph. I do talk to my salesperson at GovConnection quite frequently. I just spoke with him yesterday, and I'm sorry to say, but the date is now November, December for the CARES Act laptops and any new laptops that are being ordered. And I have a couple of people looking into that with grant money is January, February, and the sooner you order, the more likely it is to be sooner than later. So that is just a little update because it was brought up by Julia earlier, but if you have any other questions about the remainder of the report, I'm happy to answer them.
Anyone have questions for Deb? No one? Deb, the only question that I have is, I understand that there was an issue at one point with Power School syncing with Teams, and I didn't know if that was still an issue.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
We've been dealing with, working with teachers, either Justin or Shannon or myself, on a case-by-case basis. We do have one teacher who has, as of yesterday, was still having a couple of issues with a couple of their classes, and Justin was working with that teacher individually and got one of them to come through and was still working on it as of late yesterday. But that's the only thing I'm aware of right now, Sean.
All right, awesome, thank you.
I do want to, as if you don't mind, today was the day I had to upload the data to the state concerning free and reduced. And then the figures you see there on my report is pretty looking today. Because today is the day that the students who qualified last year that did not apply this year fall off the list. So our numbers are going down, and with this new news, which is very, very nice for all our families, it's not necessarily nice for us as far as our free and reduced numbers.
I just
would like to note that I believe those cameras that were installed kind of originated through the facilities and the home and audit discussions that we had.
Oh, those ones we were talking about
last year.
Yeah, okay, cool. Anything else for Deb? All right, let's move on to principals, and I believe Mrs. Freitag, I believe you're first.
Thank you. I don't think I have anything to add to my report, but I'll take any questions that you might want to ask.
Any questions? Holly?
How many students do you have that you think are coming back?
I think I counted 14 today
14.
coming back, and most of them are middle school. That's my concern for,
Oh, yeah.
again, the ancillary support, because
They're already big enough.
they are very big.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, 14. All right.
Yep.
And you said that, and you might not have an answer for this, the state testing, the next round for the SA or SAS or SA, however you say it, it says it has yet to be scheduled. Do you have any idea, like, around
Yes, I
when?
think we're going to do them next week on Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay.
They're shorter assessments. They're nothing like the SAT or PSAT, thankfully. So there are 30 questions in language arts, 30 questions in math, and one writing sample.
All right, cool.
So
A lot of testing all at once.
crazy.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? The only question I have is you mentioned in the second paragraph here, included training for proctors as well as parent training for remote testing.
Right. So students can use the secure browser that's loaded onto their laptop, either for NWEA or for the New Hampshire State assessment. So those are already on their laptops, but we did do a training for parents so they would know when your child goes onto this computer, what should they do? They shouldn't have their phone with them. They shouldn't be looking up answers elsewhere. So there was a training provided for them, and Ms. Diorio did that remote training through Zoom. Now, next week, we will probably offer a time schedule for people to, if they want to do the remote New Hampshire SAS for grades 6, 7, and 8, and we'll give some training on that too. It's just to making sure that they know how to help their child click onto the right browser and get the right test.
That was the Zoom one for the remote.
There was a second Zoom one for people.
Oh,
who
there
were
was a
gonna-
second one.
It was a second one. It
I was
wasn't the
gonna-
regular,
I was gonna say, because the one I was at, you were telling us it was happening, but there wasn't an actual
it wasn't
training.
an actual training.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
I'm like, wait, but I was there and I was awake
I
for
know.
that.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is staff are working day and night.
Oh, they absolutely are,
So
yes.
there's
They
no
absolutely
question about
are.
it. I mean, we're
Yeah.
trying to deliver too much.
Oh, absolutely. That's why the School Board Association was so surprised.
Any other questions for Ann?
But anyway, I do want to just express my thanks to the staff. I think they're phenomenal. Everybody's worked hard, and I want to publicly say, from from the least to the most, including Marty. I think Sean Lee moved Marty. I don't even know Marty's last name into our building. He's constantly cleaning. You can't walk down the hall, but there's Marty. He's cleaning constantly all day. So it was a good move for us. Yep.
Awesome. All right, so I guess we can move on to Joe.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. You have my report and answer any questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Same one I had for Ann. How many kids do you think are coming back?
I believe 13.
13, okay.
And it's odd because I think out of 7 in 4th grade, 5 are coming back. So just like Ann has some issues in the building with certain grade levels, it's gonna present some issues that we have to work out in the next few weeks to get spacing in the classrooms right.
Like you said, 4th grade?
4th grade, yeah.
And isn't that your biggest grade?
No, I think fifth grade.
It's tough. Well, we just had a new 4th grader today, so they jumped in. The league.
Anything else for Joe?
Not for me. Nope.
Julie? All right, Joseph, you're off the hook kind of easy today. All right, superintendent's report.
Here we have my report, and I think we've covered most of it already, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to do my best to answer them.
Questions for Wayne? Some of the stuff's going to be integrated into our non-public, just because of the discussions with the union, so just be aware.
He answered the ones that I had, so, yeah.
Anything else? All right, let's move on to committee reports, and I will emphasize the reporting if necessary part. Personnel. We haven't done anything yet, right?
Oh, sorry, you're right. I'm like, wait, that's you. And no, it's the Paris. I had an email from when we went back and forth, like right after last month's meeting, that you were going to reach out to the Paris and
So I
get
did
some dates.
reach out about shortly after we had that exchange.
Yeah.
And right now, Rachel is the one who's unable to come up with some dates.
Okay.
She has Sean's email and she'll be in contact there.
Yeah,
So we're
just
really
keep me
waiting
in the
on
loop
Rachel.
with that. Yeah.
So she's gonna reach out to him in a minute she comes up for air.
Okay.
But she knows we're on the.
I think I just got an email from Rachel earlier today, maybe. I'm just going to check real quick. Oh, it's lost in there, so no, I'm not going to check that real quick. All right, anything else?
Nope.
All right.
I'll circle back later to you for that. Yeah.
All right, health and wellness.
We haven't met yet, but there is a meeting coming up at the end of this month.
Next Monday, I think. Next Monday.
Yeah, I don't have it, but yeah, there's more than a week.
All right, budget committee, I think you kind of already went over
Yeah,
that.
cover that.
Staff development. Nothing? All right, legislative.
The only thing I have is on 10/8, the NHSBA promoted a conference, a Zoom meeting with the New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project. Ran about an hour and 45 minutes. I don't know if anybody else was on it, but all the different candidates from the local towns were on there talking about their views on education funding and costs. And I wrote down the The best statement made was by one of the candidates, was that public education is supposed to be the great equalizer, when in fact it is a prime area for disproportionate opportunities. So I thought that was an interesting statement. Both Senator Khan and Mike Abbott spoke at that meeting. That's it.
Can I have one thing for NHSBA quick?
Sure.
So the delegate assembly, in January, as of, I think through the end of the year, through December 31st, the LGC building is closed to outside people. And they only have their the people who rent it are only there like in spurts working. So at our board meeting, we have a board meeting middle of next month, and we're going to decide what we're going to do about the delegate assembly. Barrett's looking into different options for virtual. We might be able to rent someplace big for it, but so I'll be able to report back about that next month.
Okay. All right. Emergency management. I don't think there's anything. Wyndham Career Center. Anybody do anything to know? And HASP we didn't do. So Selectmen, there's really nothing going on there. Facilities.
So facilities met on 9/18. We did approve moving forward with the fixing of the tiles as well as replacement of the carpet in this building. Both items were on last year's CIP list. Tom is going to work on a new CIP list. Installation of any additional speakers would remain a top security purchase if funds become available, but that's up for debate right now whether that'll happen or not. We have gotten some quotes. I think Dan actually sent them out yesterday or today regarding bleachers and also the marquee sign out front. Just want to remind the school board that we've got $8,000 towards the cost of that, which is roughly $12,000 or something like that, $12,500. So we have more than 50% of the funds necessary for that. I think we also discussed desk spacing, and we reviewed that with Sean. I think we found that we were okay. In the district, we were at least 5 feet apart. And that's pretty much it. Those are my notes. But we have another meeting coming up Friday.
All right, thanks, Jim. Community connections, it hasn't been a whole lot going on, but probably going to have to, with the whole calendar thing, we're going to have to do a lot of stuff with that.
Yep.
But
So we'll just follow the plan.
Yep, we'll just follow the plan. All right, behavioral support.
I haven't heard anything yet.
So we do have groups at the building, but every as mentioned several times today, everybody stretched. I need to get this group together in time to determine if there's a budget amount that they want to recommend. This year we had 10,000, and we have, unless we get together and make a recommendation based on what's happening at the schools, then that money would not continue in our budget for next year. So I was hoping to get something out next week, and I know Julia and Kayla, the two board members on that group, and I've got, of course, the principals, and then I think right now we have Sarah Donahue, who's done a lot of work, who will be, and Tim has done a lot of work at the high school, so we'll have to get those people, and then we can meet the reps from the building and see where their interests are and start diving down in regards to how we're if we're gonna budget for something, what we're budgeting for, and B, we gotta make sure we're ready to defend it, and I'm sure everything will be necessary to be defended this year. That's where we are with that. We still have it on the top of the line as far as, and we're noticing behaviors. We haven't had the bullying situation that we typically have. I guess that's one upside of 6 feet. But definitely have emotional issues that we see in our kids that have been manifested and more every day, it seems.
All right, thanks, man.
So you'll just reach out to us to schedule?
Yeah,
Perfect.
as soon as I can get the date that we can, and we'll see if we come up with one. We're skipping tuition, right?
Yep, yeah, we can take that off.
All right, so joint loss.
Joint loss, just really quickly, So the main points from that is that some of the members are scheduling their walkthrough of the buildings. They typically do one building per year, but because of COVID and not being in the buildings in the spring, I forget which one of them, the buildings didn't get them. So they're going to be doing both of them this year. Ann updated us on Ann and Joe updated us on the number of COVID symptom-related absences, but now, the most recent numbers we have tonight. And they both said the COVID cleaning, as they were saying tonight too, is going really well. The maintenance and everything's going well. We got an update from Sean Lee. And our next meeting is in January of 2021, which was very odd to write. Hopefully it is better. Hopefully. Yes, that's all.
That's it?
Mhm.
All right, citizens' comments. And do you want to go around the board?
Sean Robinson, do you have anything? Debbie, do you have anything? Karen Thompson, do you have anything? Tom O'Connor?
I'm good.
Bonnie Trombley? Julie Kenyon? Donna, do you have anything?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Sam, do you have anything? iPad Pro, do you have anything? Teresa, do you have anything? Okay, Teresa does not. Bradford Manton, do you have anything? Yes, we're good.
All right. Then I need a motion to go into non-public.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, non-public. Roll call.
Yes.
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 All right, we are in non-public, and I think that we
Need Ann for at least one.
and
or
we need,
two.
but we're gonna need, I think, Joe and the two Anns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're the principal.
So what do you want? Yes. Yeah, we're in non-public, so.